So, this video will go through every chapter of Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, so you can see for yourself what Peter Jackson changed in his 2001 film adaptation. We'll summarize the book and use vertical footage to remind you of what the film chose to adapt. And here we go. Chapter 1. A long-expected party. Even though the film begins with a narration explaining the creation of the Rings of Power by the Dark Lord Sauron and the war of the last alliance between Sauron and the Free Peoples of Middle-earth, the book does not open with anything as heavy or dark. Instead, Chapter 1 is about Mr. Bilbo Baggins' 111th birthday, and he is having a big celebration in the Shire. The news has sparked much chatter and enthusiasm among the residents. Bilbo, known for his wealth and eccentricity, has been captivating the Shire for 6 decades ever since his mysterious disappearance and subsequent return. The treasures he has acquired during his adventures have become the stuff of local legend. The Shire lies within the ancient kingdom of Arnor, a realm of men situated in the northwestern region of Middle-earth, was established by Elendil and was home to a diverse population including Númenóreans, the Dúnedain, elves, and hobbits. Over time, the kingdom of Arnor became divided, leading to the formation of the separate realms of Cardolan, Rhudaur, and Arthedain. The Shire, a peaceful land, was situated within the territory of Arthedain and coexisted with the Dúnedain in harmony. In addition to his wealth, Bilbo's remarkable vitality is a source of wonder. Despite the passing years, he appears younger than he should have been. Bilbo maintains cordial relationships with his extended family. Bilbo's favorite cousin and heir is 33-year-old Frodo Baggins. They even share a birthday. Tolkien initially planned for Frodo to be named Bingo Baggins, but Frodo stuck instead. In the film, Frodo seems noticeably younger at the start of his journey. At the time, Elijah Wood was only 18 years old. This is very different from the book, where he is supposed to be 33 years old at the very start and 50 years old when he leaves the Shire with the ring. A rumour has spread through the Shire about an upcoming firework display unlike any seen in generations. An old man dressed in a tall pointed blue hat, a long grey cloak and a silver scarf arrives in a cart from Brandywine Bridge. The elderly man is unpacking a variety of fireworks at Bilbo's doorstep. Each bundle is adorned with a prominent red G and elf rune symbols, showcasing an array of different shapes and sizes. That symbol belongs to Gandalf, the renowned wizard known in the Shire for his expertise in creating mesmerizing fires, smokes, and lights. Sindarin stands out as the prominent elvish tongue used in Middle-earth, drawing inspiration from Welsh and various other Celtic languages. It served as the primary language of the Grey Elves, also known as the elves who chose to dwell in Middle-earth following the conclusion of the First Age. In J.R.R. Tolkien's The Silmarillion, the author delves deeper into Gandalf's backstory with intricate details. Before taking on the name Gandalf, he was known as Olorin, and renowned for his immense wisdom as one of the Maiar, celestial beings with immortal spirits often likened to angels. When the dark forces of Sauron threatened to conquer Middle-earth, Gandalf was chosen as one of the 5 Maiar to assist the inhabitants against the impending doom. Initially hesitant due to his profound fear of Sauron, Olorin was urged by Manwë, the Valar king, to lend his aid to the people of Middle-earth. Upon his arrival, Gandalf manifested as an elderly man garbed in grey robes. During the early 1930s, while crafting The Hobbit, J.R.R. Tolkien originally named a character Gandalf, who eventually evolved into Thorin Oakenshield. Tolkien's profound interest in languages and linguistics is evident in his work, particularly his fascination with Old Norse mythology. The name Gandalf, derived from Old Norse, combines the words Gandr, meaning staff or magic, and Alf, which translates to elf. Interestingly, the name Gandalf is also found in Norse mythology. Gandalf and Bilbo are seated side by side in Bag End, gazing at the meticulous manicured gardens. Bilbo reaffirms his commitment to a certain course of action, which pleases Gandalf. However, neither the Hobbit nor the wizard divulge any more details on the matter. Gandalf and Bilbo crossed paths when the Hobbit was just a child. Gandalf was struck by Bilbo's fascination with tales of epic journeys and daring escapades. This curiosity of Bilbo's later led Gandalf to consider him as a potential burglar to assist Thorin and his companions in their quest in The Hobbit. On Thursday, September 22nd, nearly everyone in the vicinity has been invited. Gandalf is the mastermind behind the spectacular fireworks display. To honor Bilbo, Gandalf orchestrates a final surprise that left the hobbits awestruck. The lights dim, a thick smoke rises, forming a mountain-like shape in the distance that glow with green and scarlet flames. A majestic red-golden dragon emerges. Though not life-sized, it exudes a terrifying lifelike presence. A loud roar fills the air as the dragon zooms overhead, causing the crowd to indistinctively duck down. Some even end up falling flat on the ground. The dragon soars past at incredible speed, executing a somersault before erupting over Bywater with a thunderous boom. Wizards appear to possess a shared expertise in explosives, possibly acquired during their time as Maiar before arriving in Middle-earth. However, the crucial distinction lies in how they utilize this potent knowledge. Saruman employs it for malevolent purposes, inflicting harm and death upon his foes. In contrast, Gandalf uses it to bring joy and entertainment to the people across the lands. Another theory suggests that Gandalf's fascination with pyrotechnics stems from the influence of the dwarven ring Narya, which he wears on his finger. This powerful artifact may be the source of his ability to create spectacular displays of fireworks and light. After a delightful dinner, the distinguished guests convene in the central tent to listen to a speech from Bilbo. The air is filled with anticipation and happiness, but it quickly shifts to confusion as Bilbo's words become a mix of praise and insults, intertwined with stories from his past adventures with the dwarves. The audience is shocked when Bilbo unexpectedly announces his plan to leave the Shire permanently, vanishing in a mysterious burst of light. Many attendees view this as a tasteless prank or even a disrespectful act. However, Frodo remains unfazed by his uncle's peculiar actions and quietly raises a glass in a toast to Bilbo's future before quietly departing from the tent to make his way home. As the festivities reach their peak, Bilbo discreetly dons his enchanted ring, rendering himself invisible to the gathering crowd. Quietly slipping away from the party, he makes his way back to Bag End to begin preparations for his journey. Clad in his weathered attire and armed with a sword that had seen him through countless adventures in the Lonely Mountain, Bilbo carefully packs his belongings. Among them, he places the ring in an envelope intended for Frodo, only to have a change of heart at the last moment. With a quick motion, he retrieves the ring and tucks it safely into his pocket. The story goes that Bilbo stumbled upon the ring while wandering through the tunnels near Gollum's dwelling. In the original version, Gollum proposes to give the ring to Bilbo in exchange for successfully outwitting him in the riddle game. Gandalf steps into the study, engaging in a conversation with Bilbo about his intentions of departing from the Shire. Gandalf is fascinated to learn about Bilbo's fatigue and sense of old age, especially considering the Hobbit's youthful appearance. Despite his eagerness to explore new horizons, Bilbo confesses that his heart aches at the thought of parting from Frodo, whom he will miss dearly. Bilbo discloses that he has bequeathed all his possessions to Frodo, yet Gandalf is quick to point out the ring that Bilbo discreetly keeps in his pocket. Bilbo becomes upset when Gandalf insists that he give the ring to Frodo, which is very unlike his usual demeanor. Gandalf purposefully stands tall to convince Bilbo to leave the ring behind. After some hesitation, Bilbo finally agrees and hands over the ring to Gandalf. However, Gandalf declines to touch it and suggests that Bilbo leave it on the mantelpiece for Frodo, as he originally intended. Once Bilbo releases the ring, he feels a sense of relief wash over him. Whistling happily, he exits his home with 3 dwarf companions, saying goodbye to Gandalf as he eagerly embarks on his final adventure. Gandalf chooses to display a glimpse of his true capabilities by changing his appearance, setting a precedent for the gradual unveiling of characters as possessing greater power and nobility than initially perceived. Additionally, there is a sense of history repeating itself as Bilbo embarks on another journey to distant lands, reminiscent of past events. Shortly afterwards, Frodo enters Bag End to discover Gandalf seated in the dim light of Bilbo's study, lost in contemplation. Gandalf confirms that Bilbo has left as planned and directs Frodo's attention to the ring resting on the mantelpiece. The wizard advises Frodo to keep the ring hidden and does not elaborate further. He cautions Frodo to guard the ring discreetly, but does not reveal his suspicions. The wizard reiterates the importance of secrecy regarding the ring. Gandalf departs with a heavy demeanor, leaving Frodo to ponder the gravity of his words. Gandalf's knowledge of the One Ring was lacking. When he arrived in Middle-earth, alongside the other wizards, the ring was already gone. Despite his mission to oppose Sauron, Gandalf was ignorant of the ring's true nature. J.R.R. Tolkien originally intended to release The Lord of the Rings as a single book, but his publisher, Allen and Unwin, was unable to accommodate his request at the time. The division of the book into separate parts was also the idea of the publishers, who came up with the titles for each volume. Tolkien himself did not want the third volume to be named The Return of the King, because he thought it gave away too much of the story. Instead, he preferred the title The War of the Ring for this part of the trilogy. Chapter 2: The Shadow of the Past. The mysterious disappearance of Bilbo remains a popular topic of conversation in Hobbiton for about a year. The legend of Mad Baggins emerges, depicting him as a mythical figure who vanishes suddenly only to return with riches. Meanwhile, Frodo faces criticism for his close ties to Bilbo and Gandalf, who are considered unusual due to their involvement in adventure, magic, and dealings with outsiders. Despite the rumors of madness surrounding him, Frodo remains content living at Bag End and continues to honor Bilbo's birthday each year. He embarks on adventures in the Shire, sometimes on his own and other times accompanied by his friends Merry and Pippin. Over time, people notice that like Bilbo, Frodo shows little signs of aging. As he approaches his 50th birthday, he still appears youthful and full of energy, defying the passage of time. The ring has the power to prolong the life of its mortal owner without limit, stopping the effects of natural aging. Gandalf has clarified that the ring doesn't bestow immortality, but rather allows the owner to persist until life becomes overwhelmingly burdensome. Frodo finds himself yearning for adventure. The residents of the Shire notice his curiosity towards the peculiar travelers passing through, a sight that is becoming more frequent in their peaceful land. Frodo seeks to uncover the truth behind the whispers of troubles brewing beyond the borders of Hobbiton. These mysterious tales from afar soon capture the attention of the ordinary hobbits, sparking a sense of wonder and intrigue among them. Among those captivated by the stories of mythical beings entwined with the rumors is Frodo's loyal gardener, Sam. Sam is the youngest child of Hamfast and Bel Gamgee, and grew up in a large family with many siblings. His fascination with elves, his talent for poetry, and interest in the extraordinary marvels in the world beyond what most hobbits know have all been influenced by Bilbo Baggins. Gandalf, who has rarely made the journey to the Shire in the 17 years following Bilbo's departure and has not been spotted there at all in the last 9 years, unexpectedly pays a visit to Frodo at Bag End. In the movie, the time between Bilbo's birthday and the passing of the ring is significantly shorter. It seems like a mere couple of weeks. Frodo urges Gandalf to share with him the information about the ring. Gandalf then reveals the true nature of the ring. It is the One Ring, a powerful weapon created by the Dark Lord Sauron to control all of Middle-earth. The wizard has become suspicious of the ring after witnessing its strange effects on Bilbo. Gandalf reveals that he has dedicated the past 17 years to uncovering knowledge about the ring, which was lost by Sauron after his downfall in the War of the Last Alliance in the Second Age. With a wealth of information now at his disposal, Gandalf shares with Frodo an intricate account of the ring's history. This powerful ring is the ruler of the 19 rings of power distributed by Sauron to humans, elves, and dwarves in ancient times. Just like the other rings of power, the One Ring gradually corrupts its wearer, leading them towards malevolence. Moreover, it actively seeks to reunite with its maker, Sauron. The One Ring, also referred to as the Ruling Ring, Master Ring, Ring of Power, and Isildur's Bane, stood out as one of the most potent relics ever forged in Middle-earth, and undoubtedly the most perilous. It was created by the malevolent Dark Lord Sauron in the fiery depths of Orundun, commonly known as Mount Doom, during the Second Age. Sauron's primary aim was to amplify his own authority and exert dominance over the other rings of power, which has been crafted by Celebrimbor and the Gwaith Imridain with Sauron's guidance. Through this means Sauron aspired to achieve rulership over the elves and all other inhabitants of Middle-earth. Gandalf's suspicions about the ring are confirmed when he decides to test it by casting it into the fire. A mysterious script in the Black Speech is revealed on its surface: one ring to rule them all, one ring to find them, one ring to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them. After deciphering the ominous inscription, Gandalf solemnly informs Frodo the dark forces of Sauron have once again begun to stir. This powerful Dark Lord is relentlessly searching for the ring and has already captured the unfortunate Gollum to extract information about his whereabouts from him, even resorting to torture to achieve his malevolent goals. The safety of the Shire and all its inhabitants is now at risk as the looming shadow of Sauron draws closer. The language known as the Black Speech, or the Dark Tongue of Mordor, served as the primary means of communication in the land of Mordor. Sauron devised the Black Speech as a universal language for his followers in Mordor, alongside various Orcish dialects and other languages spoken by his servants. J.R.R. Tolkien portrays the Black Speech as having two variations: the original pure form spoken by Sauron, the Nazgul, and the Ologhai, and a more corrupted version used by the soldiers of Barad-dûr towards the end of the Third Age. After being momentarily paralyzed with fear upon learning about the ring, Frodo turns to Gandalf for guidance on how to deal with the looming threat of Sauron and his sinister minions, the Black Riders, who are drawing closer to the Shire. Expressing regret that Bilbo spared Gollum's life in the Misty Mountains, thus inadvertently informing Sauron about the ring, Frodo wonders why Bilbo did not kill him. Gandalf reflects that he is grateful that Bilbo's compassion prevented him from committing murder. He suggests that Gollum still has a role to play in the ring story, even though he is unsure of what that role may be. Gandalf explains that the only way to destroy the ring is by throwing it into the fiery depths of Mount Doom in Mordor, where it was forged. Frodo is hesitant about embarking on such a perilous journey and offers the ring to Gandalf for safekeeping. The wizard immediately refuses, realizing that even with good intentions, the ring has the power to corrupt anyone who possesses it, turning them into a malevolent being like Sauron. After composing himself, Gandalf reassures Frodo that he cannot take the ring from him, but he will stand by his side and support him as long as the hobbit carries the burden. The two companions take a moment to sit down and contemplate the choices laid out before them. Finally, Gandalf inquires about Frodo's thoughts. The hobbit confesses to feeling scared, but understands that it is his duty to carry the ring far away from the Shire in order to protect his homeland. Despite his fear, Frodo also experiences a twinge of excitement at the prospect of exploring beyond the boundaries of the Shire. He is aware of the serious consequences the ring could have on his character, and he hopes to find a more capable individual who can resist its allure better than he can. It is possible that Gandalf would succumb to the corruption of the One Ring even quicker than other creatures in Middle-earth, considering that it was crafted by his own kind. Both Gandalf and Sauron are Maiar, angelic beings who have played a role in the creation of the world. Sauron infused the One Ring with his own malevolent desires and strength, causing it to have a corrupting influence on him. This dependency on the ring's power eventually consumed Sauron entirely. Given Gandalf's comparable power to Sauron, it is probable that he would be uniquely susceptible to the allure of the One Ring. Gandalf is taken aback by Frodo's honest and considerate reply. Once more, the wizard is impressed by the courage shown by hobbits, reminiscent of his past journeys with Bilbo. Gandalf cautions that it is now dangerous to go by the name Baggins and proposes that Frodo adopt the alias Underhill for his travels. Additionally, he advises Frodo to journey with reliable companions. Gandalf abruptly falls silent, turning to the quietness that surrounds them. Without warning, he jumps up and heads towards the window, pulling in an eavesdropper who was lurking outside, none other than the gardener, Sam. Sam had been eagerly eavesdropping on their conversation about magical beings and artifacts. The faithful gardener is terrified that the wizard might transform him into something bizarre, with Frodo jokingly suggesting a spotted toad. However, Sam also expresses his desire to accompany Frodo as a reliable companion, especially eager to visit the elves during their journey. Gandalf chuckles heartily at this unexpected turn of events and decides that Sam will indeed join Frodo on his mission to take the ring out of the Shire. There are numerous theories surrounding the meaning of the ring in The Lord of the Rings, with some suggesting it symbolizes the nuclear bomb and others proposing that Mordor represents Nazi Germany. These interpretations gained popularity due to the timing of the book's publication shortly after World War II. J.R.R. Tolkien himself was known to publicly criticize certain aspects of the war, such as the bombing of Japan. However, it is important to note that Tolkien actually began writing The Lord of the Rings in 1937, well before the atomic bomb was deployed. He consistently stated that the story was not intended to be interpreted as an allegory. In fact, Tolkien once explicitly stated that real war does not resemble the legendary war in its process or its conclusion. If it had inspired or directed the development of the legend, then certainly the ring would have been seized and used against Sauron. He would not have been annihilated, but enslaved. And Barad-dûr would not have been destroyed, but occupied. In that conflict, both sides would have held hobbits in hatred and contempt. They would not long have survived, even as slaves. Chapter 3. 3 is Company. In the following 3 weeks, Gandalf assists Frodo in devising a plan to depart from the Shire and embark on a journey towards the elven sanctuary of Rivendell. To keep their intentions hidden, Frodo pretends to be relocating to a new residence, selling Bag End to the Sackville Bagginses and purchasing a quaint cottage in the quiet village of Crickhollow, located just outside the borders of the Shire in Buckland. After accompanying Frodo for a period of 2 months, Gandalf suddenly sets off towards the south in search of information on a troubling matter that he does not disclose. The wizard assures Frodo that he will return in time for his birthday celebration, which will also serve as his farewell to Bag End. Gandalf assumes the position of mentor for Frodo as he embarks on his journey. Frodo exemplifies the ideal qualities to be the ring-bearer. He bravely undertakes the task of transporting the ring from the Shire to Rivendell, demonstrating his willingness to shoulder responsibility, setting him apart from his peers. As the season of autumn descends and the impending party draws near, Frodo finds himself increasingly worried about Gandalf's absence. To mark his birthday, he hosts a small dinner for his close friends, Merry, Pippin, Fatty, and Folko, who have been assisting him in preparing for his relocation to Crickhollow. These 4 hobbits are dear companions of Frodo, whom he has known since his childhood days in Buckland. Determined to keep his plans discreet, Frodo decides to journey with Sam to his new home before quietly departing for Rivendell, so as not to attract any unwanted attention. Despite the cheerful atmosphere during the dinner, Frodo can't help but feel a sense of sadness knowing that he will soon have to bid his friends farewell. In the book, Merry and Pippin are significantly younger than Frodo, with Merry being 36 years old and Pippin being 28. But in the movie, they are all around the same age. Folko, the offspring of Viggo Boffin, was likely among the attendees at Bilbo's farewell party. He shared a close bond with Frodo Baggins, and in September of TA 3018, he lent a helping hand at Bag End as Frodo prepared to relocate to Buckland. Folko aided in packing and loading carts for the move. He also remained in the company of Merry, Pippin, and Fatty Bolger to partake in the festivities honouring Frodo's birthday. Folko wasn't included in the movie because there was already a large enough cast. The following day, Folko makes his way back home while Merry and Fatty transport a cart of their belongings to the cottage in Crickhollow. Meanwhile, Frodo, Sam, and Pippin plan to hike through the picturesque countryside of the Shire from Hobbiton to Buckland. Just before setting off, Frodo overhears a peculiar conversation between a mysterious voice and Sam's father. the gaffer, next door. The voice is inquiring about Baggins, but the gaffer mistakenly informs them that Frodo has already departed for Buckland. Frodo listens as the stranger walks away, choosing to let the odd encounter go as they soon depart from Bag End. The trio begins their journey moving along the road with the quiet and unobtrusive manner that hobbits naturally possess. Tolkien, who was born in the late 1800s, possessed a deep appreciation for nature and a strong aversion to industrialism. He found solace in the tranquility of the quaint English countryside where he had spent his childhood, leading a modest life before being thrust into the horrors of World War I and starting a family. Interestingly, Tolkien drew inspiration from his own life and personal experiences when creating the Hobbits and their rich culture. In his numerous letters discussing the Lord of the Rings, he revealed the extent to which his own beliefs and values were reflected in the world he had meticulously crafted. I am in fact a hobbit, in all but size. I like gardens, trees, and unmechanized farmlands. I smoke a pipe and like good plain food, unrefrigerated. I like and even dare to wear in these dull days ornamental waistcoats. I am fond of mushrooms out of a field, have a very simple sense of humor. I go to bed late and get up late, when possible. I do not travel much. As the hobbits journey through the picturesque landscape of the Shire on their second day, they suddenly hear the sound of hoofbeats drawing near from behind. Frodo, sensing an instinctive need to evade detection, urges his companions to hide in the dense tall grass nearby. Their plan is to ambush Gandalf should it be the wizard in pursuit of them. However, to their surprise, it is not Gandalf who approaches, but a foreboding black rider. The ominous figure rode a large black horse and was draped in a dark cloak and hood, appearing to be searching for something with a keen sense of smell in the air. The 9 riders are also known as Nazgul, or ringwraiths, were once mortal men bestowed with rings of power. Each man possessed unique strengths and abilities, making them formidable in their own right. Unfortunately, the rings were tainted by the malevolent influence of the Dark Lord Sauron. Over time, as they lingered beyond their natural lifespan, their individuality and autonomy faded as they became enslaved to the will of the One Ring. Thus, these once glorious beings transformed into the feared and dreaded ringwraith. Frodo is filled with fear at the sight of the mysterious Black Rider, contemplating the idea of wearing the ring for protection. However, before he can make a decision, the rider abruptly departs down the road. Frodo shares his encounter with Sam and Pippin, who have been observing from a distance. Sam remembers his father mentioned a similar encounter with a Black Rider on the day they set off for Buckland. It dawns on Frodo that this must have been the same ominous figure whose voice he overheard before embarking on his journey from Bag End. One of the most frightening qualities of Sauron's minions is their uncanny skill in tracking down and chasing the One Ring. In the initial movie, The Fellowship of the Ring, there is a palpable sense of dread and suspense as the Black Rider and his ominous black steed hunts down the hobbits deep within the forest. This menacing being appears to have a keen sense for the presence of the malevolent object, drawing him towards it. This means that no matter where Frodo attempts to flee or conceal himself, they will inevitably track him down. Many fans have been puzzled by a particular aspect of the storyline, as there are multiple characters who have come into contact with the ring in both The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings series, yet only Frodo seems to be targeted by the wraiths. For instance, Bilbo Baggins lived a tranquil life in the Shire after his adventure, despite possessing the ring for over 6 decades before passing it on to Frodo. Why did the wraiths not pursue the ring during this time? Similarly, Gollum held onto the ring for over 478 years without attracting the attention of the Black Riders, despite their ability to sense its presence keenly. However, maybe when Gollum came across the ring in the river and took it from his cousin Deagol, Sauron was weakened and recovering from behind the Black Gates of Mordor. This allowed him to build up his strength and prepare his forces before making a move to conquer Middle-earth. This delay in Sauron's re-emergence played a crucial role in why they were unable to track Gollum and locate the ring earlier. In this scenario, the ring wraiths were also weakened and held back within the gates with Sauron. Another solution is rather than being a mere object, the ring possessed a malevolent personality and had the ability to manipulate and deceive its wearer, leading them to their demise when it pleased. So, the ring is cunning and dangerous, knowing how to achieve its own desires. Therefore, it can be deduced that the ring wraiths were unable to locate the ring because it did not wish to be found yet. When Gollum or Bilbo wore the ring in the past, it did not emit the same signal as it did when worn by Frodo and eager to return to Sauron. The hobbits press on with their journey, moving along the road under the twinkling starlight. Suddenly their hearts skip a beat as they hear the approaching hooves of a horse, sending them scrambling for cover once more. It is another ominous Black Rider, causing Frodo the temptation to slip on the ring and vanish from sight. Just as tension reaches its peak, the sweet melodies of song and laughter fill the air, forcing the menacing rider to retreat into the darkness. In the movie, the hobbits escape by going on a raft. The Nazgul isn't able to cross the water. The Nazgul are not deceased, but rather undead beings who have been granted immortality and invisibility through their rings. Their ancient bodies, sustained by powerful spells, they harbor a strong aversion to fire, water, and light. The hobbits are filled with relief when they unexpectedly come across a group of wandering elves. Gildor, the leader of the elves, offers the hobbits shelter for the night upon hearing about their encounters with the menacing Black Riders. Among the hobbits, Sam is particularly thrilled to meet the elves, as he has always dreamed of such an encounter. Gildor and his companions are especially impressed by Frodo, whom they dub Elf Friend due to his knowledge of Elvish language and customs. A lavish feast is shared between the hobbits and the elves, during which Gildor provided insights into Frodo's journey. He advises Frodo to continue without Gandalf and to steer clear of the perilous Black Riders. Gildor also promises to inform other potential allies along Frodo's path about his journey. However, Frodo discovers that the elves of Middle-earth are gradually leaving to journey west across the sea. That night, the hobbits sleep peacefully among the roots of the woodland trees under the protection of the elves. Chapter 4: A Shortcut to Mushrooms. As the first light of dawn gently caresses the land, Frodo wakes up feeling rejuvenated. He finds himself nestled in a cozy alcove created by a majestic tree, its branches intertwined and gracefully reaching for the ground. His makeshift bed consists of lush ferns and soft grass, emitting a delightful fragrance that invigorates his senses. Sunlight filters through the verdant leaves, casting a warm glow over the tranquil scene. Eager to start the day, Frodo springs to his feet and ventures outside. Sam is seated on the verdant grass at the forest's edge, lost in thought. Pippin stands nearby, gazing up at the sky and assessing the weather. Despite their surroundings being peaceful and serene, there is no trace of the mystical elves who once graced the lands with their presence. They have gone, but not without leaving behind supplies for the hobbits. In the world of Tolkien's mythology, the elves are the initial creations of Eru, also known as Iluvatar. They are not susceptible to illness or the effects of time, although they could still perish from violence or losing the desire to live. The elves are essentially immortal beings. A group of them, later named the Eldar or People of the Stars, were taken by the Valar from Middle-earth to Valinor, where they received teachings from the Ainur. However, when Melkor stole the Silmarils, some of the elves chose to return to Middle-earth and stayed there until the conclusion of the Third Age. Frodo informs his companions that the roads are now dangerous, prompting them to venture into the woods to evade the Black Riders. Progress is hindered as they struggle through the dense vegetation towards the Blackberry Ferry, causing the hobbits to feel discouraged as they veer off course. To make matters worse, they hear eerie sounds in the vicinity, possibly indicating that the Black Riders are drawing near. Buckleberry Ferry serves as a makeshift ferry for travelers crossing the Brandywine River from the Shire to Buckland, acting as the secondary crossing point following the Brandywine Bridge located 20 miles to the north. In the 2001 film directed by Peter Jackson, the event at Buckleberry Ferry takes place much earlier than in the book. The hobbits quickly descend a steep grassy slope and disappear into the dense forest below. They carefully plan their route to bypass Woodhall and instead cut diagonally through the thick woods on the eastern side of the hills. Their goal is to reach the open plains beyond, where they could then head straight for the ferry, navigating only a few obstacles like ditches and fences along the way. Frodo estimates they have a straight line distance of 18 miles left to cover. He quickly realizes that the thicket is denser and more entangled than he had initially thought. There are no clear paths through the undergrowth, making their progress slow and difficult. As they reach the bottom of the bank, they encounter a stream flowing down from the hills with steep, slippery banks covered in brambles. Unfortunately, the stream intersects their chosen route, posing a challenge. They could not simply jump over it, and crossing it without getting wet, scratched, and muddy seems impossible. They pause, unsure of what to do next. Sam Gamgee glances over his shoulder. Between the trees, he glimpses the edge of the lush hill they had descended from. They immediately abandon the thought of turning back. Frodo takes the lead and swiftly enters the dense bushes next to the flowing stream. Hobbits are famous for their small size and fondness for comfort, but it's their unique bare feet that truly set them apart. With their leathery and hairy soles, hobbits have no need for shoes, making their feet a distinctive feature of the species. In fact, in Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings films, actors wore prosthetic feet to accurately portray hobbits. After hours of trekking through the dense woods, the group finally breaks through the tree line and realizes they have strayed too far south. Pippin spots familiar fields owned by Farmer Maggot, causing Frodo to tense up even more than when encountering the Black Riders. Frodo has harbored a deep fear of the farmer ever since Maggot unleashed his dogs on a young Frodo caught stealing mushrooms from his field. Pippin reassures Frodo that Farmer Maggot is a friend of his and Mary's and suggests seeking refuge at the farmhouse to evade the Black Riders. With a mix of relief and apprehension, the group heads towards the welcoming shelter of Maggot's farmhouse. During World War I, 2nd Lieutenant J.R.R. Tolkien was sent back home due to illness in November 1916 and never fully recovered. He spent the remainder of the war on light duties in East Yorkshire, specifically at the former Officers' Hospital in Hull. While Tolkien was in Hull, many of his fellow soldiers were killed in action, resulting in his battalion, the 11th Lancashire Fusiliers, being reduced to just 14 men and eventually disbanded in 1918. Tolkien's fictional world of Middle-earth drew inspiration from his time in rural Worcestershire and the Swiss Alps. However, it was his experience in the remote coastal area of East Yorkshire that had a significant impact on his storytelling. In fact, some of the key elements in his tales, including the greatest love story in Middle-earth, were influenced by his time spent in this unique location. However, the iconic Lord of the Rings trilogy was shot exclusively in the picturesque landscapes of New Zealand. Farmer Maggot and his family graciously received the three hobbits into their home, offering them food and beer. During their visit, Farmer Maggot mentions that a mysterious Black Rider had come to their farm earlier in the day, inquiring about a hobbit named Baggins. Farmer Maggot, a perceptive individual, quickly connects the dots and realizes that Frodo, Sam, and Pippin are in danger. They are grateful for his kindness and accept his offer to hide them in his farm cart, driving them to the Buckleberry Ferry under the shroud of night. As they journey, Frodo, Sam, and Pippin catch the sound of faint hoofbeats, causing a moment of alarm. However, their fears are quickly put to rest as Mary emerges from the shadows. Not a Black Rider, but a friend. Mary has been awaiting their arrival at Crick Hollow and has come to greet them. It has taken the hobbits more than 5 miles to reach the ferry from Maggot's Lane. Despite bundling up, they strain their ears to catch any sound over the squeak of the wheels and the steady clopping of the pony's hooves. Frodo feels like the wagon is moving slower than a snail. Pippin is starting to doze off beside him, while Sam is keeping his gaze fixed ahead into the thickening fog. Eventually they arrive at the entrance to the ferry lane, marked by 2 towering white posts that appeared suddenly on their right. Farmer Maggot pulls the ponies to a stop, and as they begin to climb out, their worst fears are realized. The sound of approaching hooves on the road. Maggot leaps down and holds onto the pony's reins, squinting into the murky distance. Clip-clop, clip-clop. The rider drew nearer, the sound echoing loudly in the still, foggy air. The hobbits express their gratitude to Farmer Maggot for his assistance, and as he prepares to head back home, he presents Frodo with a small, covered basket. Frodo's eyes widen in surprise and amusement when he discovers that the basket contains an assortment of mushrooms. Farmer Maggot makes an appearance in the Fellowship of the Ring, guiding a mysterious black rider to Hobbiton upon their arrival at his farm in pursuit of the ring. Another scene showed him scolding Merry Brandybuck and Peregrine Took for pilfering from his fields. In the film, viewers catch glimpses of his abundant crops and various other vegetables. Chapter 5: A Conspiracy Unmasked. Merry guides Frodo, Sam, and Pippin down the fairy lane, a neatly maintained path lined with large whitewashed stones. Meriadoc Brandybuck and Peregrine Took, affectionately known as Merry and Pippin, share a special bond as not only close friends, but also first cousins. Esmeralda Brandybuck, who is Merry's mother, happens to be the younger sister of Padalin Took. Their mischievous antics make them the most endearing duo in all of Hobbiton, and perhaps even the entire Shire. Merry and Frodo are cousins as well, but their familial connection is slightly more distant as first cousins once removed. After a short distance, they reach the riverbank where a wide wooden landing stage awaits them. A sizable ferry boat is docked next to it, ready for passengers to board. The bright white bollards by the water's edge reflect the light from two tall lamps, casting a soft glow around them. In the distance, mist hovers over the fields, creeping above the hedges, while the dark water in front of them only reveals a few wisps of steam drifting among the reeds along the bank. The opposite side seems clearer, with less fog obscuring the view. The Buckleberry Ferry is the sole means of crossing the Brandywine River and gaining entry into Buckland until they reach the distant Brandywine Bridge 20 miles ahead. Drogo Baggins, the father of Frodo Baggins, reportedly perished in the Brandywine River alongside his wife while they were on a boat excursion. The hobbits feel a sense of immense relief upon safely entering Buckland, particularly upon spotting a mysterious figure that appears to be a black rider trailing them but unable to traverse the river. Buckland is more fortified than the Shire, as it is surrounded by the natural defences of the Brandywine River and a specially cultivated hedge. It is rumoured that J.R.R. Tolkien initially considered the notion of having the Nazgul fearful of water due to a traditional belief that evil creatures cannot cross running water. However, Tolkien eventually dismissed this concept because he needed a way to explain how the Nazgul managed to reach the Shire from Mordor, which required crossing several rivers. Even though water may not be able to kill them since they are immortal, their physical forms could be harmed by powerful forces such as strong water currents, prompting them to avoid such risks. Another possible explanation for their fear of water could be because during the creation of the world, one of the Valar, named Ulmo, introduced the concept of water and shaped it. Ulmo was also closely associated with elves and men in Middle-earth, providing them with assistance. The Nazgul, serving Sauron, harbored a deep fear of Ulmo's power, believing that traces of his influence still lingered in the waters of Middle-earth. Merry guides the pony onto the ferry, with the rest of the group following behind. Using a long pole, Merry gently pushes the ferry away from the dock. The Brandywine River stretches out wide and calm in front of them. On the opposite bank, a steep slope leads up to a winding path from the distant landing. Lamps twinkle in the darkness, illuminating the way. Behind them, the imposing Buck Hill rises up, its silhouette barely visible through the mist. The windows of Brandy Hall glow warmly in the night, casting yellow and red hues. These windows belong to the historic Brandybuck's ancestral home. Many years ago, Gorindad Oldbuck, the leader of the Old Buck clan, which was among the oldest families in the Marish and the Shire, ventured across the river, the original boundary of the land to the east. He constructed and dug out Brandyhall, adopted the name Brandybuck, and established himself as the ruler of what essentially became a small independent nation. His family flourished and expanded, with Brandy Hall eventually covering the entire low hill, boasting 3 grand front entrances, numerous side entrances, and approximately 100 windows. The Brandybucks and their many followers began to dig underground homes and later construct buildings all around. This has marked the beginning of Buckland, a densely populated area situated between the river and the Old Forest, essentially a settlement branching off from the Shire. The primary village in Buckland is Buckleberry, nestled on the banks and slopes overlooking Brandy Hole. The residents of the Marish are on good terms with the Bucklanders, and the authority of the Master of the Hole, the leader of the Brandybuck family, is still respected by the farmers in the area between Stock and Rushy. However, many inhabitants of the original Shire view the Bucklanders as somewhat strange, almost like foreigners. The journey from the Brandywine River to Frodo's recently acquired residence in Crick Hollow is quite a distance. After travelling half a mile northward, they reach a lane on their right, which they proceed to follow for a couple of miles as it meanders up and down through the countryside. The house is barely visible in the darkness, nestled back from the road within a spacious lawn encircled by a ring of short trees within the outer hedge. Frodo has specifically chosen this location because it is secluded and free from any nearby residences. It allows for discreet entry and exit without drawing attention. The house, originally built by the Brandybucks, is intended for guests or family members seeking refuge from the bustling life of Brandy Hall. The hobbits stroll from the ferry to the cottage, where they are greeted warmly by Fatty. Fatty, under Mary's guidance, has prepared the cottage to be inviting and comfortable. It has a rustic charm resembling a hobbit hole with its long, low structure, turf roof, round windows, and a sizable round door. Frodo, Sam, and Pippin are grateful to finally have the chance to bathe and enjoy a satisfying supper. In a surprising turn of events, Frodo discloses his intention to embark on a journey to Rivendell to Merry, Pippin, and Fatty, only to discover they are already aware of his plans. Not only that, but they are also well informed about the existence of the ring and the peril it poses to its bearer. Frodo is astonished to learn that his friends have been orchestrating a secret scheme to uncover his intentions, with his loyal gardener, Sam, acting as the main informant. Despite their fears, Merry and Pippin are resolute in their decision to accompany Frodo and Sam on the expedition to Rivendell, refusing to be dissuaded. None of this is shown in the movie. It was cut due to the film already being too long. Fatty is also completely excluded from the movie. Frodo is taken aback by the betrayal of his friends, but he is feeling grateful for their bravery and loyalty in joining him on his perilous journey. Sam, being the main investigator of the conspiracy, has taken on the role of the chief planner, making sure they are well prepared with travel packs and ponies to leave immediately. Meanwhile, Merry has organized everything to keep up the pretense that Frodo is still living at Crick Hollow, with Fatty staying behind to play his part in the deception. Fatty is content with his less adventurous role, knowing he isn't as devoted to Frodo as Sam, Merry, and Pippin. After a long day's journey, Frodo struggles to fall asleep, his legs aching. However, he finds comfort in the thought of riding in the morning. In a restless slumber, he dreams of a dark forest with eerie sounds of creatures lurking below. As he wanders through the dream forest, the distant sound of the sea draws his attention. It is a sound he has never heard in waking life, but has haunted his dreams before. Suddenly, he finds himself in a clearing with a tall white tower in the distance beckoning him. Feeling a strong urge to reach the tower and see the sea, he begins to climb the ridge towards it. But just as he starts his ascent, a blinding light fills the sky, accompanied by a deafening thunderclap. Dreams play a significant role in The Lord of the Rings, yet they are often overlooked by many readers. While the adventures and wonders of the Fellowship in their walking hours are captivating, the dreams of the characters offer a unique perspective. Each dream in this epic tale holds meaning and typically falls into one of 3 categories: reflecting on past events, providing insight into the present by showing distant occurrences, or offering glimpses of the future through mysterious signs. Frodo has vivid dreams more frequently than any other character. Even in the peaceful Shire, he experiences visions of unfamiliar mountains that seem to be a sign of his important mission. These dreams serve as a reminder of his duty and push him to continue on his quest. He is often visited by strange dreams that urge him to not linger and to keep moving forward. Chapter 6: The Old Forest. As the possibility of the Black Riders approaching grows, the hobbits decide to depart from Creek Hollow early the following morning. Fatty Bolger lets out a tired yawn as they quietly make their way out of the house. Frodo suggests avoiding the main roads, so they venture into the eerie old forest. Merry has some knowledge of the paths within the forest, guiding a pony loaded with supplies through a path that wells through a small grove behind the house and across several fields. The leaves of the trees sparkle with dew, and the grass is covered in a layer of cold moisture. The world around them is peaceful, only with distant sounds filling the air. The chatter of birds in a nearby yard and the faint closing of a door in the distance. But the four hobbits quickly discover that the forest itself seems to have a will of its own. The familiar paths have shifted, and landmarks have changed since Merry's last visit. Eventually the hobbits come to the realization that the trees have surrounded them, redirecting their journey towards the southeast instead of their original plan to head northeast. The Old Forest, in conjunction with Fangorn Forest, stands as the last remnants of a once vast and ancient forest that stretched across most of Eredor prior to the Second Age. It is one of the few forests that the elves chose to awaken and impart the gift of speech. As the Second Age progressed, the forest faced threats from the relentless tree cutting by men of Middle-earth and Numenor. Subsequently, during Sauron's war against the elves, the chaos and devastation caused by him and his forces nearly wiped out Eredor and resulted in significant portions of the forest being set ablaze. During the Third Age, the once peaceful forest transformed into a perilous and untamed land. The inhabitants living in close proximity had to be vigilant and take necessary measures to protect themselves. Among them, the Bucklanders constructed the High Hay as a barrier against the wild and dangerous creatures lurking within the forest. The ponies are moving cautiously to avoid the twisting roots. There is no brush or brushes obstructing their way. The terrain gradually slopes upwards, and with each step, the trees loom taller, darker, and denser. The only sound is the occasional droplet of water trickling down from the leaves above. Despite the stillness, a sense of unease creeps over them, as if unseen eyes are watching them with disdain, escalating to hostility. The feeling intensifies until they find themselves constantly looking up or glancing behind them, anticipating a sudden attack. Frodo is starting to question the feasibility of finding a path through the dense forest, wondering if he has made a mistake by leading the others into the treacherous woods. Merry appears lost, unsure of which direction to take as he scans his surroundings. The hobbits believe that the trees in the old forest possess a strange kind of consciousness. They would move and sway without any apparent wind, murmuring softly in the dark of night, and often leading travelers astray. In a memorable event, some trees from the old forest encroached upon the protective hedge, prompting the hobbits to chop them down and set them ablaze in a massive bonfire. Following this incident, the trees became more hostile, known as the Hurons. Despite its ancient and seemingly awake nature, the old forest is not tended by Ents and appears to be avoided by elves as well. After a long journey through the dense forest, the group finally reaches a deep valley where the river Withwindle flows. As they walk alongside the winding river, Frodo, Merry, and Pippin are starting to feel the heat intensifying around them. Swarms of flies are buzzing around them, and the sun is beating down on their backs in the afternoon. Finally, they stumble upon a faint shadow. Large grey branches stretched over the path. With each step they take, they feel a growing reluctance. A sense of drowsiness seems to seep from the ground, climbing up their legs and gently descending from the air onto their heads and eyes. They suddenly feel an overwhelming fatigue and drift off to sleep next to the water. Merry and Pippin settle down with their backs against the sturdy willow trunk. As the tree sways and groans, its wide cracks seem to beckon them in. They gaze up at the leaves, a mix of grey and yellow, rustling gently in the light and creating a soothing melody. Closing their eyes, they fancy they could almost make out faint whispers. Speaking of water and rest, succumbing to the enchantment, they drift off into a deep slumber at the base of the ancient willow tree. Frodo battles against the overwhelming drowsiness that envelops him. With a determined effort, he manages to stand up once more. A strong craving for refreshing cool water consumes him. Sam struggles to keep his eyes open when he hears two strange noises that jolt him awake. One is a loud splash, while the other is a subtle yet unmistakable click. The first noise indicates the heavy descent of an object into the water, while the second resembles the sound of a lock securing the door shut with a gentle yet swift motion. Worried about his companions, he discovers a massive willow tree holding Frodo still in the river, while Merry and Pippin are nearly consumed by the tree's enormous trunk. Academics have explored the deeper meaning behind the Old Forest, drawing comparisons to a representation of Old England. In addition, Frodo Baggins, the main character, refers to it as the Shadowed Land, hinting at its association with death. Sam quickly saves Frodo from the water, causing Frodo to awaken immediately. However, the two are unable to release their captured friends from the tree's hold. It becomes clear that the Widow Tree is a sinister entity that refuses to release Merry and Pippin. In a state of sheer terror, Frodo rushes along the riverbank, desperately calling for assistance. To his astonishment, his pleas are answered by the whimsical figure of Tom Bombadil. Tom Bombadil is an enigmatic figure who has existed throughout much of the world's history. During the Third Age, he was rumoured to reside in the valley of the Withwindle within the depths of the Old Forest, located east of Buckland and near the perilous Barrow Downs. Although his realm is relatively small, he appears to wield unparalleled control over the surrounding land. He has made his home in a quaint house in the dingle of the Old Forest alongside his wife Goldberry, known as the Daughter of the River, far removed from any other settlements. Despite his seemingly kind nature, he refrains from openly opposing the Dark Lord. Bombadil comes to the aid of the troubled hobbits with a jovial demeanour, belting out whimsical tunes at the top of his lungs. He cuts a striking figure in his regal crown, vibrant blue coat, and cheerful yellow boots, bouncing and twirling as he entertains with his playful songs. It is evident that he is well acquainted with the perils of the ancient tree known as Old Man Willow, as he croons a command into its gnarled trunk to set free Merry and Pippin. The tree obeys his musical plea. An ancient and malevolent tree spirit named Old Man Willow resides in the depths of Tom Bombadil's Old Forest. This sinister entity takes the form of a massive willow tree next to the river Withwindle, but its dark influence extends throughout the entire forest. Old Man Willow is known for casting spells on unsuspecting hobbits, ensnaring them in his trap until they are rescued by the enigmatic Tom Bombadil. J.R.R. Tolkien even sketched a depiction of Old Man Willow, drawing inspiration from a non-pallarded tree near a river in Oxford. Critics have been puzzled by the presence of such an evil entity in Tolkien's work, especially considering his reputation as an environmentalist. Some have suggested that the portrayal of Old Man Willow may be influenced by Christian beliefs regarding the corruption of nature after the fall of man. The hobbits, feeling a sense of relief, happily accompany Tom Bombadil as he leads them to a secure dwelling in the heart of the Old Forest. Tom and his wife, Goldberry, graciously extends an invitation for the hobbits to join them for supper. Upon reaching the quaint home, the hobbits are greeted by a harmonious duet sung by Tom and Goldberry, filling the air with enchanted melodies. None of these events or extra characters are shown in the film, The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. Chapter 7. In the House of Tom Bombadil. The four hobbits cross over the broad stone entrance and come to a halt, squinting as they take in their surroundings. They find themselves in a spacious, dimly lit chamber, illuminated by hanging lamps casting a warm glow from the rafters above. A long table made of gleaming dark wood is adorned with numerous, tall, flickering candles emitting a bright yellow light. Frodo, Sam, Pippin, and Merry discover solace and joy at Tom Bombadil's residence. Upon meeting Goldberry, they are captivated by her grace and beauty, yet she quickly puts them at ease with her warm hospitality. Goldberry's origin and nature remain shrouded in mystery, with only hints suggesting she may be a river spirit associated with the enchanting river Withwindle. The 4 hobbits are bathed, fed, quenched, and invigorated. They revel in the presence of their enchanting host, even resorting to singing in their happiness. Following a delightful supper, they drift off into a deep slumber. Their rest is briefly disturbed by unsettling dreams. In the stillness of the night, Frodo finds himself enveloped in a shadowy dream. As he gazes up, he notices the slender crescent moon ascending into the sky, casting a faint glow upon a looming black barrier of stone. Through the darkness, a massive arch resembling a grand gate catches his eye. It appears as though Frodo is being lifted above this mysterious wall, only to discover that it encircles a cluster of hills. Within this enclosure lies a vast plain with a solitary stone pinnacle rising from its center. It is a tower, but not forged by human hands. Atop the peak, a statue of a man stands tall. The moon, rising above him, appears to pause momentarily above his head, casting a shimmering glow on his silver hair as it sways in the wind. From the shadowy plains below, eerie voices could be heard, along with the haunting howls of wolves. Suddenly, a dark shelf resembling massive wings passes in front of the moon. The man raises his arms, and a brilliant light emanated from the staff he is holding. A majestical eagle descends and carries him away. The voices cry out, and the wolves continue their restless yammering. As the echoes fade, the sound of thundering hooves fills the air. Racing from the east. Black riders, Frodo suddenly wakes up, the hoofbeats still resonating in his mind. He ponders whether he would ever find strength to venture beyond the safety of the stone walls. He lies still, straining to hear any lingering sounds, but all was quiet. Finally, he turned over and drifted back to sleep, or perhaps into another forgotten dream. The hobbits are reassured by the comforting atmosphere of Tom Bombadil's abode and easily drift back to sleep. Sam enjoys a peaceful night's rest. Tom Bombadil, a frequently underestimated character, possesses great strength, ruling over a mysterious domain of immense power. Unlike Gandalf, Saruman, and other formidable beings, Bombadil's profound connection to Middle-earth grants him unparalleled strength and influence. He is often referred to as the Master, the First and Eldest. Bombadil is said to have a deep connection to the natural world, as he can recall the earliest raindrops and acorns, and was present before the rivers and trees came into being. Based on these qualities, it is reasonable to liken him to a mythical figure like Adam in the realm of Middle-earth. The next morning, they wake up simultaneously to the cheerful sound of Tom's whistling as he bustled around the cottage. With rain pouring outside, the hobbits gratefully accept Tom's offer to extend their stay and enjoy his hospitality for another night. While Goldberry takes advantage of the downpour to do some washing, Tom regaled the hobbits with tales of plants, animals, and different peoples. He tells them about Old Man Willow, the menacing old forest, the treacherous great barrows, verdant mounds, and ancient stone rings scattered across the hills and valleys. The air is filled with the distant bleating of sheep, while green and white walls towered in the landscape. Mighty fortresses grace the hilltops where kings of miniature realms clash in epic battles, their shimmering swords reflecting the fiery rays of the young sun. Gold adorn the funeral pyres of fallen monarchs, buried beneath mounds with stone doors sealed shut. Hidden beneath a blanket of verdant grass, Barrow-wights roam the hollows, their cold fingers adorned with clinking rings and gold chains, haunting the land with their eerie presence. The hobbits tremble with fear. Even in the peaceful Shire, they had heard unsettling tales of the Barrow-wights that lurk beyond the forest in the Barrow Downs. It is a story that no hobbit enjoys hearing, especially not by a cozy fireside. In that moment, the 4 friends are reminded of what has been pushed out of their minds by the happiness of the house they are in, the dwelling of Tom Bombadil nestled near the ominous hills. After the Dúnedain of Cardolan fell victim to the devastating Great Plague, the eerie Barrow-wights emerged in the Barrow Downs. It was around the year TA 1409 when malevolent spirits under the command of the Witch King of Angmar were dispatched to prevent the Dúnedain from reclaiming the area. As his words drift into unfamiliar territories, the listeners realize he has ventured into realms beyond their memories and imagination, where the world is vast and the seas stretch straight to the western horizon. Tom continues to sing, transporting them back to ancient times when only the ancestors of the elves are awake. Suddenly, he falls silent, his head nodding as if on the verge of slumber. The hobbits sit entranced, feeling as though the wind has ceased, the clouds dispersed, and daylight faded into darkness as the sky fills the brilliance of twinkling stars. There are some who believe that Bombadil could be a Maya, a divine being sent to help shape the world alongside the powerful Valar. It is even more unlikely that Bombadil could be a Valar, as there are only 14 Valar and only 7 of them are male, with Arome being the only one to remain in Middle-earth before eventually departing for Aman with the elves. If Bombadil is truly a Valar, Gandalf would have recognized him as such and mentioned it to the hobbits, which he did not. When Frodo finally musters the courage to ask Tom about his true identity, Tom cryptically replies that he is the eldest, a being who predates the arrival of humans and hobbits in these lands. Tom reveals that he is even older than the ancient Dark Lord Sauron. Quickly he returns, carrying a large and heavy tray. Tom and Goldberry then arrange the table, leaving the hobbits in awe and amusement. Goldberry's grace is enchanting, and Tom's playful antics are both merry and peculiar. They move around the room in a harmonious dance, effortlessly setting up the meal with great speed. Candles in white and yellow colors illuminate the room, creating a warm and inviting atmosphere. Tom welcomes his guests with a bow, while Goldberry announces that supper was ready. The hobbits marvel at Goldberry's silver attire with a white belt, and her shoes resemble fish scales. Tom, on the other hand, is dressed in a pristine blue outfit, reminiscent of rain-washed forget-me-nots, complete with green stockings. In a letter written in 1958, J.R.R. Tolkien expressed that Goldberry symbolizes the natural shifts in season within Riverlands during autumn. Following dinner, Goldberry serenades them with several songs before bidding them goodnight and heading to bed. Tom, on the other hand, remains wide awake and begins to quiz the hobbits with a flurry of questions. Tom appears to have a deep understanding of the personal histories of the hobbits and the overall history of the Shire. He has gathered much of this knowledge from the elves, as well as his close friend, Farmer Maggot, whom he greatly respects. Tom has somehow received news from Gildor about Frodo's journey. His knowledge and connections with different beings in Middle-earth adds to his mysterious and enigmatic aura. Tom insists on inspecting the ring and even tries it on, but he remains unaffected by its ability to make him invisible, which surprises the hobbits. Frodo is slightly irritated by Tom's casual attitude towards the ring as he playfully places it against his eye, causing it to disappear and reappear. Bombadil pays no heed to Sauron's menacing presence, as he is indifferent to the concepts of good and evil. Instead, his focus lies solely on maintaining harmony within his domain through the power of music and his charismatic aura. He is a staunch pacifist at heart, shunning violence and conflict against any foe, regardless of their alignment. As the night draws to a close, Tom shares valuable tips on navigating the weather and choosing the best routes for their journey. He imparts a special song to the hobbits, a tune they can use to summon his aid in times of peril. After the group finishes singing along with him, he jovially pats each of them on the shoulder and then guides them back to their sleeping quarters with lit candles. Frodo, Pippin, Sam, and Merry drift off to sleep, their minds untroubled by dreams. Both Tom and Goldberry are excluded from the movie The Fellowship of the Ring. Chapter 8. Fog on the Barrow Downs. During the night, there are no sounds to disturb them. However, Frodo finds himself drifting between dreams and reality, unsure of which was which. In this state, he is serenaded by a beautiful melody that seems to emanate from the depths of his mind. It is a song that feels like a gentle glow, softly illuminating his thoughts. After enjoying breakfast in solitude once again, they prepare to bid farewell, their hearts weighed down with a heaviness that seems fitting for such a morning, refreshing, bright, and pristine beneath a clear autumn sky of pale blue. A crisp breeze blows in from the northwest, invigorating their spirits. Their horses, typically calm, seem unusually lively, eagerly sniffing the air and shuffling about. Tom emerges from the house, waving his hat and playfully dancing on the doorstep, urging the hobbits to depart swiftly and travel with good fortune. They journey along a winding trail that veers away from the back of the residence, ascending diagonally towards the northern tip of the hillside, where it provides cover. As they dismount to guide their ponies up the final steep incline, Frodo abruptly halts in his tracks. Numerous ponies make appearance in The Lord of the Rings, primarily serving as mounts for the hobbits. This is because regular horses are too big for hobbits to handle effectively. Their path meanders through the floor of the sunken land, winding around the grassy base of a steep hill and leading into a wider, deeper valley. They then descend over the hills, following their long slopes before descending and climbing back up their smooth sides, reaching new peaks and venturing into new valleys. The landscape is devoid of trees and visible water, characterized by grassy fields and springy turf. The only sounds are the whisper of the wind brushing against the land's edges and the eerie calls of unfamiliar birds, echoing in the distance. As they travel, the sun rises higher in the sky, intensifying the heat with each passing moment. Whenever they reach a crest, the breeze feels weaker and more fleeting. Around noon, they arrive at a hill with a broad, flat top that resembles a shallow saucer with a ring of green mounds around the edge. The air is still inside, and the sky feels close overhead. They ride across the hill and gaze towards the north. The group find themselves hungry as the sun shines brightly overhead. Seeking shade, they lean against the cool east side of a large stone. Despite the lack of warmth from the sun, the chill feels refreshing in the moment. They enjoy a satisfying meal sourced from the supplies Tom had given them down underhill. Their ponies graze contentedly nearby, unburdened and free. It is a simple yet pleasant midday feast under the open sky. As they ride through the rolling hills, they find themselves succumbing to a peaceful slumber. Their bodies relaxed, limbs outstretched, gazing up at the sky as they drift off. It is in this state of bliss that they are unexpectedly roused from their unintended nap. In The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien, the connections between the natural world and the free folk demonstrate a philosophy akin to the person-planetary paradigm and Taoism, making The Lord of the Rings not just a story, but also an environmental statement about the challenges posed by our increasingly technologically driven society in this modern age of Middle-earth. Awaking from their slumber, the hobbits are greeted by the dim light of dusk and a thick fog that envelops them. Feeling discouraged by the unsettling change in weather, they cautiously make their way through the fog, believing they are heading north. They sense a looming trap around them, yet their spirits remain intact. The memory of the promising path they had seen ahead still linger, guiding them towards their destination. Despite the fear creeping in from the hollow surroundings, they are determined to move on. With haste, they gather their belongings, eager to leave the stone circle behind, their fingers numb from the cold. Frodo, eager to lead the way, rushes ahead when he thinks he spots the exit from the Barrow Downs. Unfortunately, he realizes his mistake and turns back, only to discover that he has lost sight of his companions in the mist. Suddenly, cries echo through the fog, prompting Frodo to search for their source. As he climbs a hill, the icy wind intensifies, revealing a looming barrow in front of him. Just as he is about to investigate further, a chilling voice pierces the air and a ghostly figure known as a Barrow-wight materializes before him. The wraith seizes Frodo with a grip as strong as iron, causing him to lose consciousness. Tolkien drew inspiration from Norse mythology when creating the concept of Barrow-wights, which are undead beings similar to Draugrs. Scholars have also observed the similarities between the breaking of the Barrow-wight's curse and the climatic battle in Beowulf. Although Barrow-wights are absent in Peter Jackson's film trilogy, they do make appearances in video games set in Tolkien's Middle-earth. Upon regaining consciousness, Frodo discovers he is confined within the burial mound. Fear grips him as he contemplates being under the control of a malevolent Barrow-wight. Despite his trepidation, he summons his courage to strategize a way out. Nearby, Sam, Merry, and Pippin are also unconscious, adorned in white garments adorned with gold and jewels. A sharp sword rests across their necks, adding to the eerie atmosphere of their confinement. out of nowhere, a haunting melody drifts through the shadows, sending shivers down Frodo's spine, as he witnesses a slender arm reaching out towards Sam from a hidden passage. Fear grips him and the thought of fleeing with the ring crosses his mind. However, his unwavering loyalty to his companions prevails, and his newfound courage enables him to grasp a small sword nestled among the treasures in the barrow. With a swift strike, he cuts through the encroaching arm, causing it to fall lifeless as the blade shatters. In an instant, all light within the barrow fades away as menacing growls fill the air around Frodo. Stumbling over Mary, Frodo's mind suddenly recalls that haunting melody of Tom Bombadil's song, taught to the hobbits for moments of great need. With trembling hands, Frodo begins to sing, and to his astonishment, a distant echo responds, leading Tom Bombadil to appear in a burst of light at the entrance of the barrow. With swift and sure movements, Bombadil defeats the menacing Barrow-wight and restores life to the fallen hobbits. He then lays out the treasures of the barrow on the lush green grass above the burial mound, carefully selecting a delicate brooch for Goldberry and sturdy daggers for each hobbit to carry. Additionally, he retrieves the hobbits' frightened ponies, which had fled at the sight of the evil presence in the barrow. After guiding the hobbits out of the eerie Barrow Downs, Tom escorts them to the road before bidding them farewell to go back to his beloved Goldberry. He suggests that the group head towards an inn known as the Prancing Pony in the neighbouring town of Bree. The hobbits excitedly make their way to the inn, seeking refuge and comfort in its welcoming atmosphere. Bombadil's absence from the movie adaptations has sparked debate for years. It is widely believed that Jackson omitted him to maintain the pacing of the trilogy. However, in cutting Bombadil, Jackson also had to remove the Barrow-wights from the storyline. This is because, without Bombadil, there was no magical saviour to rescue the hobbits from the malevolent spirits in the Barrow Downs. Chapter 9. At the Sign of the Prancing Pony. Bree serves as the central village in the Breeland, a quaint area that seems like a secluded island amidst the vast empty lands surrounding it. In addition to Bree itself, there are other settlements such as Staddle, situated on the opposite side of the hill, Combe, nestled in a deep valley slightly to the east, and Archet, located on the outskirts of the Chetwood. Surrounding Bree Hill and the neighbouring villages is a small expanse of cultivated fields and tamed woodland that stretch only a few miles wide. The town of Bree is primarily populated by humans and hobbits and is a popular resting place for travellers passing through. The people of Bree are characterised by their brown hair, sturdy build and modest height. They are known for their cheerful and independent nature, belonging only to themselves. Despite their self-resilience, they are open and welcoming to hobbits, dwarves, elves, and other beings in their midst, in contrast to the usual aloofness of larger folk. According to their own stories, they are the original inhabitants of the land and descendants of the first men to venture into the western regions of the world. Though few have survived the trials of ancient times, the Bree folk remain steadfast even as the old kings fade into obscurity. When the kings returned from across the Great Sea, they found the Bree people still there, a testament to their enduring presence in the ever-changing world. The meaning of the name Bree originates from the Brythonic language, a Celtic dialect symbolizing a hill. Tolkien possibly drew inspiration from the real-life town of Brill. As Frodo, Pippin, Merry, and Sam arrive in the town at nightfall, they feel a sense of unease when the gatekeeper starts questioning them about who they are and why they are there. He bids them goodnight, and they exchange no further words. Unbeknownst to the gatekeeper, a mysterious shadow sneaks past the gate after the hobbits are allowed entry. In the glow of the lantern, Frodo notices the man still watching them with a curious gaze. As they move on, he feels relieved when the gate closes shut behind them. He ponders over the man's suspicious behavior and wonders if anyone has been inquiring about a group of hobbits. Frodo and his friends make their way to the Prancing Pony, where they are warmly welcomed by the innkeeper, Barrowman Butterbar, who shows them to comfortable accommodations. The sight of the hobbits from the Shire triggers a sense of familiarity in Butterbar, though he can't quite recall why. The character of the Bree innkeeper is significantly reduced in the movie compared to the book, where he plays a more active role in assisting the hobbits and even delivers a letter from Gandalf to Frodo. Following a satisfying meal, Merry decides to retire to their rooms for some rest, while Frodo, Sam, and Pippin decide to explore the bustling common room to mingle with other guests and catch up on the latest gossip. The trio is met with a lively sense of hobbits, humans, and dwarves enjoying drinks and meals together. In the movie, Merry doesn't retire for the evening and remains with his friends. Beyond the town of Bree, there exist enigmatic wanderers known as Rangers. The locals of Bree refer to them as such, yet they have little knowledge of their origins. These Rangers are distinguishable by their height and darker complexion compared to the men of Bree. It is believed that they possess extraordinary abilities of sight and hearing, as well as the capability to communicate with animals and birds. Their travels take them freely to the south and east, venturing as far as the Misty Mountains. However, sightings of them are rare. Whenever they appear, they bring with them news from distant lands and share captivating forgotten stories. Despite this, the people of Bree keep their distance and do not form close bonds with the Rangers. During the Third Age, under Gandalf's guidance, the Rangers have been tasked with vigilantly watching over the Shire. Their mission is to thwart any malevolent schemes from Sauron and safeguard the mysterious One Ring. As the humans and dwarves discuss troubling news from afar, the friendly Bree hobbits eagerly greet the three Shire hobbits and show interest in their journey. Following Gandalf's advice, Frodo introduces himself as Underhill and spins a tale about researching hobbits outside the Shire for a potential book. Amidst the chatter, Frodo notices a cloaked figure quietly smoking a pipe in the corner. Butterbur reveals the mysterious individual to be a ranger named Strider, cautioning Frodo to be wary of him. Strider beckons Frodo to come closer, and though the hobbit is hesitant, he eventually complies. The ranger appears to suspect that Frodo is not truly Underhill, and cautions him to ensure his companions do not inadvertently disclose any sensitive information. Both Strider and Frodo grow anxious as they realize Pippin is on the verge of revealing Frodo's true identity and the existence of the ring, as he excitedly recounts tales of Bilbo's 111st birthday celebration to a group of onlookers. In the film, Strider is depicted wielding a whole sword. However, in the book, he carried the shattered remnants of Narsil, which had been broken during Sauron's defeat at the close of the Second Age. Frodo captivates the audience by expressing gratitude for their hospitality, all the while battling the powerful temptation to wear the ring. The crowd is in high spirits and requests a song from Frodo, who willingly entertains them with a playful tune. As he starts to dance around the tables, Frodo accidentally slips and disappears from view as he unintentionally slips on the ring. The crowd is initially astonished, but quickly turns to anger as they begin to distrust Pippin and Sam, who are left behind. While wearing the ring, individuals from the material realm are whisked away in the ethereal plane, connected directly to the malevolent presence of Sauron. Within this spiritual realm, these beings become unseen to those residing in the physical world. Isildur, Bilbo, and Frodo are rendered invisible when they put the ring on because they are transported out of the physical realm. Unlike them, Sauron lacks a physical form and thus remains unaffected by the ring's power. This ability to turn invisible only impacts mortal creatures, as Sauron's immortal Maya essence shields him from experience the same vanishing effect. Frodo slowly moves towards the room's edge and carefully takes off the ring, feeling embarrassed and confused about how it ended up on his finger. He could only guess that it must have slipped on while he was fiddling with it in his pocket while singing, and accidentally put it on when he reached out to steady himself. He briefly considers if the ring had manipulated him, trying to reveal itself in response to some unspoken desire in the room. He is wary of the men who have left, sensing their suspicious glances. Despite Frodo's attempts to act clueless, Strider insists on having a private conversation with the Hobbit. Frodo reluctantly agrees and approaches the restless crowd in the common room to explain himself, but they remain skeptical of his story about simply falling down and crawling away under the tables. Strider calls Frodo by his true name, Baggins, and jokingly remarks about his mistake of putting on the ring. Strider patiently awaited Frodo's arrival, not inside the inn as one might expect. Instead, he kept a vigilant eye on the road, as Gandalf had instructed him to do. He observed as the group bid farewell to Tom Bombadil and trailed behind them. Chapter 10. Strider. Frodo, Pippin, and Sam slowly return to the cozy room, finding it shrouded in darkness. Mary is nowhere to be seen, and the dwindling fire barely illuminates the space. Only after reviving the dying embers and adding more wood do they realize that Strider is already sitting in the room. He is seated serenely in a chair near the entrance. His presence is a quiet surprise. The mysterious ranger attempts to assure the hobbits of his intentions to assist them on their quest. He reveals that he has been tracking Frodo and his companions since they left the Barrow Downs, sneaking into Bree right behind them. Despite Strider's unusual appearance and story, Frodo considers that a servant of the Dark Lord Sauron would likely disguise themselves as someone more appealing. Strider, also known as Stick at Naught Strider, is the moniker bestowed upon Aragorn by the inhabitants of Eredor, such as those in Bree, while he serves as a ranger. The nickname appears to allude to the ranger's elongated legs, attributed to his Númenórean heritage, in contrast to the shorter-legged locals of Bree. The hobbits are gazing at Strider, noticing the pained expression on his face and the tight grip of his hands on the chair's arms. The room falls into a hushed silence with the light dimming around them. Strider sits motionless for a moment, lost in a distant reverie or perhaps tuning into far-off sounds in the night. Strider warns the hobbits about the dangerous Black Riders who are likely searching for them. The room falls into a thick silence. Frodo remains silent, his thoughts clouded with uncertainty and dread. Strider offers to lead them out of Bree using secret paths not known to many, though the hobbits are initially unsure of Strider's trustworthiness. The hobbits are engaged in a heated discussion about whether or not they should trust Strider. Butterbar suddenly appears with a letter from Gandalf for Frodo. Barlaman Butterbar is the proprietor of the Prancing Pony during an unspecified period in the later years of the Third Age. He holds a special affection for hobbits and employed 2 of them at his establishment, Bob, who tended to the stables, and Nob, who serves as a household servant. Barlaman had a close relationship with Gandalf, as the wizard was a frequent guest at the inn over the course of many years. The innkeeper has forgotten to deliver it to Frodo 3 months ago and is now apologizing profusely for his mistake. Despite the urgent news that the Black Riders from Mordor are on their hunt for the hobbits, Butterbar is determined to assist them, even if it means putting his inn in danger. Worried about Mary's absence, he sends his hobbit servant Nob to search for Mary. In the movie, Butterbar never appears with a letter from Gandalf. At this point in the movie, Frodo and his companions are convinced that Gandalf has abandoned them because he never met them at the Prancing Pony like he was supposed to. Also, Mary isn't separated from the group. After Butterbar leaves, Strider encourages Frodo to read Gandalf's letter. The letter reads, "This friend of mine from the Shire, he may be coming out this way before long. Him and another. He'll call himself Underhill. Mind that, but you need ask no questions. And if I'm not with him, he may be in trouble. And he may need help. Do whatever you can for him, and I'll be grateful." The message discloses that the wizard advised them to depart the Shire 2 months earlier than planned, directing them to head towards Rivendell and to trust Strider if they encounter him. Rivendell is known as the last homely house east of the sea in the novels. Tolkien, a renowned linguist, crafted a rich mythology for Middle-earth, showcasing his love for languages. In The Lord of the Rings, he channeled his expertise in linguistics to develop Sindarin, a beloved form of Elvish inspired by Old English and Old Norse. This language is widely spoken by elves in the epic tale. Strider further convinces the hobbits of his trustworthy nature by pointing out that he has refrained from attacking them, even though he possesses the ability to easily overpower them. Strider is known for his diverse talents and capabilities. He excels in combat, demonstrated exceptional surviving skills, displaying strategic prowess, and he possessed natural leadership qualities. However, one of his most essential roles is that of a healer, a responsibility he does not frequently showcase on the battlefield. While Peter Jackson's film trilogy highlights Strider's ability to some extent, J.R.R. Tolkien's original novel delves much deeper into these aspects of his character, emphasizing their greater significance. Sam is frightened upon seeing a large sword hanging from Strider's belt, but Strider reassures him by revealing that the sword is broken below the hilt, rendering it ineffective for combat. Strider then discloses his true identity as Aragorn and offers his loyalty to the hobbits. He is the rightful heir of Isildur, a revered monarch who once ruled over both Arnor and Gondor. At the tender age of 2, Aragorn lost his father to orcs, and his mother made the difficult decision to send him to live with the elves in Rivendell. There, he was taken in by Elrond, the wise half-elf lord of the land, and given the name Estil. Aragorn grew up believing he was simply a foster child, unaware of his true heritage. It wasn't until his 20th birthday that Elrond finally revealed the truth about his lineage. The hobbits agreed to let Strider lead them to Rivendell. Telchar, the renowned dwarfsmith from Nogrod, crafted the sword during the ancient First Age. Its companion blade was known as Angrist. The film depicts Strider brandishing an intact sword, while in the book he carries the shattered remnants of Nazgul, which had been destroyed during Sauron's defeat in the closing days of the Second Age. Following a fierce battle, Nazgul gained widespread renown. Despite being broken and rendered unusable, Isildur chose to preserve it as a cherished family heirloom. Tragically, on his way back from the battle, Isildur was ambushed and slain by orcs, leading to the loss of the one ring which would later be discovered by Smeagol. His squire managed to escape with his life and the shattered remnants of Nazgul, eventually reaching Rivendell, where Isildur's son resided under elven protection. The fragments of the sword remained in Rivendell for countless years as Isildur's son, Valandil, ascended to the throne. Fast forward to the Third Age, with the descendants of Isildur roaming the northern lands of the Dúnedain, or Ranges, while Gondor thrived in the south. Enter Aragorn, the final chieftain of the Dúnedain and rightful heir to Nazgul. In the literacy works, Elrond presents Aragorn with the broken sword when he reaches 20 years of age, foretelling that wielding the sword signifies his embrace of a grand destiny. In an instant, the sound of a door slamming reverberates through the air, followed by the hurried footsteps echoing down the hallway. Shortly thereafter, Merry and Nob rush into the room. Merry recounts his alarming encounter with a Black Rider while out for a walk near the inn. He witnessed the rider conspiring with locals from Bree like Bill Ferny and Harry the Gatekeeper. Merry tried to follow the rider, but he was overcome by a strange, almost dreamlike state and collapsed by the roadside. Nob discovered him there. Strider speculates that Merry was affected by the Black Breath, which is believed to be a sinister exhalation from a Black Rider that induces a deep, near-unconscious slumber. Concerned for the safety of the hobbits, Strider decides they should not sleep in their own rooms, and arranges for them to stay elsewhere. Meanwhile, Frodo, Sam, and Pippin update Merry on Strider and Gandalf's message, while Strider and Nob make it look like the hobbits are still in their original rooms. Strider stands watch over the hobbits as they eventually drift off to sleep despite their lingering unease. The ominous Black Breath, also referred to as the Black Shadow, is a grave and frequently lethal affliction caused by coming into contact with a Nazgul. Instead of being the literal breath of the invisible wraiths, it is more like a malevolent aura deliberately created to render enemies helpless. Chapter 11: A Knife in the Dark. As night falls upon Buckland, a sense of darkness and mist envelops the land, creeping through the dells and along the riverbank. The once lively house at Crick Hollow now stands eerily silent. Fatty Bolger cautiously opens the door, feeling a growing sense of fear that keeps him from resting or retiring for the night. As Bolger peers out into the darkness, a mysterious black shadow moves among the trees, causing the gate to swing open and shut silently on its own. Panic grips him, causing him to retreat back into the safety of the hall, trembling with fear. With a quick motion, he shuts and locks the door, seeking refuge from the unknown terror that is lurking outside. 3 mysterious figures dressed in black dismount outside the gate and stealthily make their way inside, blending in with the darkness like elusive shadows. One of them positions themselves by the door, while the other 2 take up positions at opposite corners of the house, their presence as silent and still as the stones around them. Suddenly, there is a muffled yet powerful impact, causing the door to shake violently. With a powerful second strike, the door gives way and collapses, its timbers splintered and lock shattered. The dark figures swiftly enter. Suddenly, a horn is sounded among the trees nearby, piercing the night like a blaze on a hilltop. Fatty Bolger knows that he has to flee or meet his demise. Without hesitation, he dashes out the rear entrance, sprinting through the garden and across the fields. Fredegar, Fatty, Bolgar did not make an appearance in the Lord of the Rings movies, but a middle-aged hobbit with the same name was featured at Bilbo's party, portrayed by Fran Walsh's uncle, Tom. The brandy bucks are heralding the ancient horn call of Buckland, a sound that has not resonated through the land for a century. Not since the chilling arrival of the White Wolves during the harsh winter when the Brandywine River was frozen solid. Distant horns can be heard in the distance, signaling alarm and causing black figures to quickly flee from the house. The sound of hooves in the lane intensifies as they gallop into the darkness. The Black Riders ride swiftly towards the north gate. They know the house is empty and the ring is no longer there. They overpower the guards at the gate and disappear from the Shire. The Black Riders' primary reliance is on their connection to the One Ring for direction, although they do possess some limited vision. Additionally, their horses provide them with sight. Despite popular belief, they are not sightless individuals. However, due to their existence in the realm of the Wraiths, their vision is impaired when navigating the physical world. In the early hours of the night in Bree, Frodo wakes from a deep slumber, feeling suddenly alert, as if a sound or presence had disturbed him. He notices Strider sitting attentively in his chair, his eyes shining in the flickering firelight. Despite the bright flames, Strider remains still and silent. Frodo eventually drifts back to sleep, only to be plagued by restless dreams filled with a howling wind and thundering hooves. The following morning, Strider awakens Frodo, Sam, Merry, and Pippin at the crack of dawn. They discover that their rooms have been ransacked and all the ponies and horses have been set loose from the stables. However, in the film, the Nazgul make their way into Bree, effortlessly overpowering the gatekeeper as they ride in. They stride into the prancing pony, striking fear into the heart of Balamin Butterbar. Meanwhile, the hobbits are fast asleep, unaware of the danger looming over them. The Ringwraiths menacingly position their blades above what appears to be the hobbits, only to bring them down swiftly as Sam suddenly awakens with a start. To everyone's surprise, the hobbits are not where they were thought to be. The Ringwraiths have unknowingly stabbed empty beds, causing them to cry out in frustration as the other hobbits awaken. Aragorn takes a moment to explain that the Ringwraiths were once noble men who were corrupted by rings of power, turning them into wraiths bound to Sauron's will. Their sole purpose now is to seek out the One Ring and relentlessly pursue Frodo as long as he possesses it. Their departure is delayed as they search for a suitable pony to serve as a pack horse for their journey into the wilderness. The only available pony belongs to the unscrumptious Bill Ferny, who demands an exorbitant price for the emaciated animal. After acquiring the pony, Strider and the hobbits leave Bree in the late morning, attracting the suspicious gazes of the town's inhabitants as they depart. Strider navigates the unpleasant dealings with Bill Ferny to secure a necessary pack horse for their group, while the hobbits feel uneasy under the scrutiny and suspicion following the night's unsettling events. After finishing their morning meal, the hobbits need to repack their belongings and gather additional supplies for the long journey ahead. It isn't until nearly 10 o'clock that they are finally ready to depart. The entire town of Bree is abuzz with excitement. The news of Frodo's sudden disappearance, the mysterious appearance of the Dark Horseman, the theft from the stables, and the unexpected alliance with Strider the Ranger has created a story that will be retold for years to come. Strider has reconsidered his route and opts to leave Bree via the main road. Trying to sneak away through the countryside would only attract more attention and possibly provoke a chase. Before setting off, the hobbits bid farewell to Nob and Bob, expressing their gratitude to Mr. Butterbar for his hospitality. The purchasing of the old sickly pony has been excluded from the movie. After travelling some distance along the main road, Strider veers off course to guide the hobbits into the untamed wilderness. The small party traverses 2 days through the forest without incident until they reach the treacherous Midgewater marshes. Progress through the marshes is slow and dangerous, with relentless insect attacks tormenting the hobbits. They stop at nightfall to set up camp under some small outer trees near the water's edge. With no possibility of hiding anymore, they can only pray that there were no enemies or spies watching them. That night, they take turns keeping watch, with Strider appearing to stay awake the entire time. If Gandalf was nearby, there would have been some indication of his presence. In Peter Jackson's film adaptation of The Lord of the Rings, the Midgewater Marshes were omitted from the theatrical release, but can be seen in the special extended edition of The Fellowship of the Ring. The following day, they reach the opposite side of the marshes, where Strider points out the ancient ruins of Weathertop on a distant hill. He explains that it was once a watchtower for the men of Numenor, and they set their sights on reaching the ruins to gain a vantage point of their path ahead. Arriving at Weathertop after a full day of travelling, Strider comes across evidence of a fierce battle and a stone etched with hurried markings. He speculates that Gandalf might have left the stone as a signal to show that he had been at the site 3 days prior, but was forced to leave due to the imminent danger. Strider proposes that the mysterious light they saw in the sky 3 nights ago was caused by Gandalf's magic, suggesting that the wizard was ambushed by the Black Riders and had to abandon his camp at Weathertop. In the film, Weathertop serves as a significant action location, but is a simplified version compared to the description in the book. Upon reaching the location, Aragorn and the 4 hobbits set up camp at the base of the hill. Aragorn then equips them with daggers and swords before venturing out to scout the surrounding areas. The group decides to start a small fire in the hollow of the side of the hill. Suddenly, Frodo spots dark figures moving towards the bottom of the hill, alerting his companions to the possible presence of Black Riders. Strider suggests that they remain where they are, as the fire provides some protection. He entertains the hobbits with ancient myths to lift their spirits, including the tale of Beren and Luthien, an elf princess who fell in love with a mortal man. Together they defeated a powerful enemy who was once Sauron's master. Luthien sacrificed her immortality to be with Beren in death. The hobbits observe a noble change in Strider's demeanor as he recounts stories of heroic deeds and ancient civilizations. Tolkien's legendary tale of Luthien and Beren is one of his earliest tales of Middle-earth. The tale occurs approximately 6,500 years prior to the adventures depicted in The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. Following the conclusion of Strider's tale, Frodo, Pippin, Merry, and Sam settle down to relax while maintaining a vigilant watch. A feeling of unease suddenly descends upon the hobbits, prompting Strider to swiftly position them with their backs facing the fire in anticipation of a potential assault by the menacing Black Riders. A group of mysterious dark figures suddenly emerge from the shadows at the edge of the campfire's flickering light. Merry and Pippin immediately throw themselves down in fear, while Sam hurdles close to Frodo for protection. The menacing Black Riders close in on Frodo, prompting him to give in to the irresistible urge to put on the ring. Once the ring is on, he can see the terrifying appearance of the Riders more clearly. They are armed and look menacing. The tallest figure, adorned with a crown and wielding a sword and knife, lunges towards Frodo. The light from the fire offers some protection to the hobbits against the shadowy threats of the Black Riders. Despite their fear, the hobbits display bravery by standing together against the enemy. However, Frodo succumbs to the evil influence of the ring, losing his free will and entering the dark realm of Sauron's rake-like servants. Wearing the ring, Frodo leaps down and strikes the feet of his attacker while shouting a cry for help. He feels a sharp pain in his shoulder, causing him to stagger. Struggling with the pain, he sees Strider join the battle with flaming torches in hand. With a final effort, Frodo manages to remove the ring before losing consciousness from his wound. In the movie, Strider isn't immediately with the hobbits when they are attacked. He only appears after Frodo gets stabbed. Chapter 12. Flight to the Ford. After Frodo awakens, he finds himself gripping the ring tightly in his hand while wrestling next to the crackling fire. His companions are filled with relief to see him conscious again. Sam is informing him that the Black Riders were driven back by Strider's bold confrontation, though Strider himself has been absent for an hour. Suddenly, the Ranger startles them with his unexpected reappearance, revealing that he has been tracking the movements of the menacing Black Riders in an effort to uncover their mysterious intentions. Frodo drifts off to sleep, despite feeling the throbbing ache of his wound intensifying and a chilling numbness creeping from his shoulder, down his arm and side. His companions stay by his side, comforting him and tending to his injury. The hours of the night drag on slowly and tiredly. Upon hearing of Frodo's injury, Strider becomes deeply worried, particularly after finding the weapon that caused it. Strider then instructs Pippin and Merry to heat up as much water as possible in their small kettles, and to cleanse Frodo's wound with it. He identifies the blade as cursed, that knowing that its evil power will soon taint Frodo irreversibly. Referred to as both a long knife and a blade, this weapon was wielded by the Nazgul to inflict poison upon their enemies. According to Elrond, the intention behind the knife was for it to break off inside the wound, leaving a shard embedded in the victim's body. The rest of the blade would then disintegrate, while the shard would slowly make its way towards the heart. Should the shard remain in the victim for an extended period, they would eventually transform into a wraith. Strider lowers himself onto the ground, placing the hilt of the dagger on his lap, and begins to chant a melodic tune in an unfamiliar language. Afterward, he shifts his focus to Frodo, speaking softly in words that elude the other's ears. Retrieving the lengthy leaves of a plant from his pouch at the waist, he continued his mysterious ritual. Strider locates a healing plant called Athelas to tend to the hobbit's wound, but he understands that it can only delay the curse temporarily. Athelas, commonly referred to as Kingsfoil or Assi Arenion, is a medicinal plant that flourishes across the lands of Middle-earth. Athelas is originally introduced to Middle-earth by the Númenóreans. However, as time passes, the understanding of its medicinal benefits has become scarce, known only to the rangers of the north and to the elves. To most men and hobbits, it is simply seen as a worthless plant. In Gondor, there is a belief that the herb holds great power when wielded by the king. As dawn breaks the following day, Strider and the hobbits hurry away from Weathertop towards Rivendell. Over the course of around 10 days, they push through the untamed wilderness, all the while Frodo's wound worsening. They make a conscious effort to avoid the main road, dreading another encounter with the menacing Black Riders. Their harrowing journey is briefly uplifted when Strider discovers a glimmer of hope in the form of a grief elf stone jewel placed on their path near a bridge. Additionally, the group stumble upon 3 stone trolls, the same creatures that Bilbo, Gandalf, and the dwarves had outsmarted at the start of their adventure to the Lonely Mountain ages ago. This nostalgic encounter brings a moment of joy to the hobbits amidst their arduous trek. The family of creatures known as trolls comprises of various types, each named based on their habit. Hill trolls, also referred to as stone trolls, are infamous for their role in the killing of Aragorn's grandfather. The cave trolls are a unique breed of trolls that reside deep within the caverns of the Misty Mountains. Mountain trolls are a formidable breed of troll, sharing close kinship with cave trolls and hill trolls. They often form alliances with orcs. Mountain trolls are formidable foes on the battlefield, surpassing the intelligence of their cave-dwelling counterparts. Their ability to wield large objects as weapons gives them a deadly advantage in combat. Their superior strength compared to cave trolls can be attributed to the challenging conditions of their mountainous habitat. Snow trolls are briefly mentioned in the book, likely sharing similarities with the aforementioned examples. All trolls were created through Morgrath's manipulation and interbreeding of various creatures in the world. They have pledged their allegiance to Sauron and serve as his loyal minions. Strider and his companions are compelled to resume their journey towards Rivendell as they hear the approaching sound of horses' hooves. To their surprise, they are encountered by Glorfindel, a mighty elf lord known to Strider, who has been sent by Elrond to assist them on their quest. Glorfindel was the one who left the elf stone by the bridge earlier. Seeing Frodo's deteriorating health, Glorfindel lifts him onto his horse so that Frodo can flee quickly in case they are attacked by the Black Riders. Despite his reluctance to leave his friends, Frodo is reminded by Glorfindel that the riders are solely interested in pursuing the Ring-Bearer, ensuring the safety of the others. Sadly, Glorfindel isn't in the movie. Arwen takes over his scenes. Glorfindel is an esteemed elf lord in J.R.R. Tolkien's original literary creation. He is featured in the Fellowship of the Ring, serving under Elrond. His legacy dates back to the ancient First Age of Middle-earth and is detailed in the Silmarillion and various appendices of The Lord of the Rings. He is depicted as a tall and attractive figure, adorned with golden locks and exuding a regal presence. Over the next couple of days, Glorfindel and Strider urge the hobbits on relentlessly towards safety. As they draw near the ford of Brunnian on the edge of Rivendell's territory, a group of 5 Black Riders give chase. Glorfindel takes charge, urging his horse to speed ahead with Frodo, successfully outmaneuvering 4 more Black Riders who try to block their path. The 9 servants of Sauron relentlessly pursue the Hobbit, their dark influence compelling Frodo to hesitate and glance back after crossing the ford of Brunnen. None of this is shown in the movie. Despite Aragorn's efforts to halt the spread of the infection, Frodo, who has carried the burden of the ring thus far, is at risk of turning into a ring wraith himself. With a 3-day journey ahead to reach Rivendell, it appears as though Frodo will succumb to the shadows until Arwen arrives. She takes it upon herself to escort Frodo to Rivendell, confronting the ringwraiths and ultimately saving his life. Through her heroic act, she ensures that Frodo will go on to undertake the perilous expedition to Mordor in order to destroy the ring and preserve the realm of Middle-earth. The lead Black Rider approaches the ford's edge and demands Frodo's return to them. In response, Frodo invokes the names of Elbereth and Luthien, but falls silent as the riders start to cross the ford. In certain mythologies and realms of fantasy, names possess power. Elbereth is a name that strikes fear into the hearts of all malevolent creatures due to her heroic actions and strong bond with the elves. It is common for the elves to call upon her name in times of need to boost their morale. Serving under Sauron, the mere mention of Luthien's name may have wielded some influence over the Nazgul. Luthien, aided by Huan, successfully vanquished Sauron and brought down his stronghold on the island. Just as the enemy is closing in on Frodo, a powerful surge of white riders and horses rush down the river Brunnen. These magical waves sweep away the Black Riders in the midst of the river, causing the rest of their dark steeds to be carried away by the current in a panic. With all 9 Black Riders swept away, Frodo tumbles from his horse, losing consciousness. In the 2001 film, Arwen, played by Liv Tyler, utters a powerful incantation to prevent the ringwraiths from crossing the river. This mythical phrase, not written by Tolkien himself, calls upon the waters of the Misty Mountains and the waters of Loudwater to thwart the Dark Riders. Crafted by David Sallow, the words were spoken by Arwen, so we never get to see the horses chasing away the Black Riders as it was written in the book. Book 2, Chapter 1, Many Meetings. After a few days have passed, Frodo awakens to find himself in Rivendell. As he lies in bed trying to gather his thoughts, he is taken aback when he sees Gandalf the Grey sitting next to him. Gandalf informs Frodo that Elrond, the Lord of Rivendell, has successfully healed the wound caused by the cursed knife that had pierced deep into Frodo's body. The healthy flush has returned to his cheeks. His eyes sparkle with clarity and attentiveness. In addition to this, Gandalf enlightens Frodo about various other matters, such as the Black Riders, their defeat at the Ford of Brunnen with the help of Gandalf and Elrond's combined powers, and the true identity of Strider as a descendant of ancient kings. Frodo decides to rest once more, feeling too content and at peace to engage in any arguments. He knows he won't come out on top anyway. Now fully awake, the memories of his journey start flooding back. The disastrous detour through the old forest, the incident at the Prancing Pony, and his reckless decision to wear the ring at Weathertop. The Ring of Power is the most potent and malevolent item in Middle-earth. However, it has a deceptively ordinary facade, a plain, unadorned band of gold that appears unassuming. As Frodo tries to recall his arrival in Rivendell, there is a prolonged silence, only interrupted by the gentle puffs of smoke from Gandalf's pipe as he blows smoke rings out of the window. Gandalf shifts his chair next to the bed and carefully observes Frodo. As the evening progresses, Frodo wakes up feeling refreshed and invigorated, with a newfound appetite for food, drink, and perhaps even some music and tales. He gets out of bed and realizes that his injured arm was nearly healed. Donning clean garments of green cloth that fit him perfectly, he is surprised to see a thinner version of himself in the mirror, resembling Bilbo's adventurous nephew from the Shire. Frodo is joyfully reunited with his faithful companion, Sam, as they join their companions for a lavish dinner at the house of Elrond. Elrond's grand hall is bustling with a mix of elves and other guests. Elrond, as usual, occupies a magnificent chair at the head of a long table on a raised platform. Elrond is a highly influential elven individual, widely recognized for his unparalleled abilities in healing. He is around 6,497 years old. He is also celebrated for his exceptional wisdom and ability to foresee events. Moreover, Elrond possesses numerous abilities derived from Vilya, the Ring of Air. Glorfindel is sitting on one side of him while Gandalf is sitting on the other. Frodo is gazing at them in amusement as he has never seen Elrond before, despite hearing many tales about him. In that moment, Glorfindel and even Gandalf, whom he thought he knew well, appear as noble and powerful lords. Gandalf's origins trace back to over 2,000 years old. In Gondor, Gandalf is also known as Mithrandir, meaning the Grey Pilgrim, due to his grey attire and penchant for wandering the lands. The eyes that are gazing back at Frodo are holding a sense of contemplation and wisdom, as if hinting at the journey that lies ahead. Frodo is in awe as he gazes upon the majestic presence of Glorfindel, Elrond, and Elrond's daughter, Arwen, who are all seated together at a grand banquet table. In the movie, the banquet is not shown, and Glorfindel isn't even a character. Rivendell, the picturesque valley in Tolkien's Middle-earth, was inspired by his exploration of a beautiful valley in Switzerland in 1911. The tranquil beauty left a lasting impression on Tolkien, leading him to create the enchanting realm of Rivendell. Following the satisfying meal, Frodo is pleasantly surprised to find himself seated next to Gloin, an old friend of Bilbo's. Gloin, one of the 13 dwarves who once embarked on a journey to the Lonely Mountain with Bilbo and Gandalf, regales Frodo with tales of their adventures. Frodo is captivated by Glon's stories, especially the news that the paths between the mountains and Mirkwood Forest remain safe for travel, thanks to Grimbeorn the Old and his warriors. Additionally, Gloin tells him that the Men of Dale have formed a strong alliance with the dwarves. Of particular interest to Frodo is the revelation that 3 of Bilbo's former companions on the journey to the Lonely Mountain, Balin, Ori, and Oin, are currently missing. Glon is seeking out Elrond's counsel on this matter, looking for advice and guidance. Glon is also missing from the Lord of the Rings films, but his son Gimli is an extremely important character. Everyone is entertained with songs and tales. Frodo is taken aback to reunite with Bilbo in the hall, and they sit together joyfully as Bilbo recounts his adventures since departing the Shire on his 11th birthday. However, Frodo's joy turns to concern when Bilbo inquires about seeing the ring. In that moment, Bilbo undergoes a sudden transformation into a strange, obsessive figure, causing Frodo to feel a strong urge to strike his uncle. The episode is fleeting, with Bilbo returning to his normal self as he withdraws his request and acknowledges the corrupting influence of the ring. Frodo finds himself in the peaceful sanctuary of the last homely house, located to the east of the sea. This dwelling, as described by Bilbo, was a haven for those seeking comfort in food, rest, storytelling, singing, or simply quiet contemplation. Merely being present in this abode has a miraculous effect, dispelling weariness, fear, and sadness. Bilbo doesn't have the ring anymore, so his age is quickly catching up with him. After catching up on all the exciting news from the Shire Frodo and Sam share with Bilbo, they are surprised to see Strider quietly joining them. Bilbo warmly welcomes the ranger, and the two of them move aside to work on a song they've been collaborating on. Meanwhile, Frodo drifts off to sleep in the cozy atmosphere of the room, only to awaken as if in a dream to hear Bilbo recounting an ancient hero song to a small group of elves. Eventually, Bilbo and Frodo excuse themselves to continue their conversation in private, leaving Sam to gently remind the still recovering Frodo that it's time to rest and head to bed. Sam guides him through a series of passages and down numerous steps until they reach a beautiful garden overlooking the riverbank. His companions are waiting for him on a porch, gazing towards the east. The sun is setting, casting shadows in the valley below while the mountains still glow in its light. The air is balmy, filled with the soothing sound of water and the faint fragrance of blooming trees and flowers. It feels like summer is still present in Elrond's gardens. Rivendell, also known as Imladris in the Elvish language Sindarin, is a settlement established by Elrond, half-elven in the eastern region of Eredor. Initially serving as a stronghold and sanctuary during the elves' conflict with Sauron in the Second Age, Rivendell has evolved into a peaceful refuge for wandering elves, rangers of the north, and various travelers in the Third Age. Chapter 2: The Council of Elrond. The following day, Gandalf calls upon Frodo and Bilbo to attend the Council of Elrond. Various people from distant lands have journeyed to Rivendell, bringing tidings and seeking advice. Elrond, the esteemed ruler of Rivendell, has gathered everyone for a meeting to discuss these important matters and decide the destiny of the ring. The individuals in attendance at this ceremony are the ambassadors of the three independent races of Middle-earth: humans, elves, and dwarves. Gloin shares unsettling news with the dwarves, disclosing that a follower of Sauron has made contact with their people. This individual proposed a partnership and the distribution of new rings of power in return for information about a hobbit named Baggins. Glon's concerns also extend to his relative Balin, who embarked on a journey many years ago to Moria, with a group of dwarves seeking to recapture their historical territory, but has not been seen or heard from since. In J.R.R. Tolkien's imaginative realm, Moria, also known as Khazad-dûm, is an old-age underground structure located in Middle-earth. It consists of an extensive maze-like system of passageways, rooms, mines, and holes beneath the misty mountains, with entrances on both the western and eastern slopes of the mountain range. Moria has been standing as the greatest city of the dwarves, its prosperity built upon the riches of its mines that yielded the precious mithril, a mythical metal renowned for its beauty and strength, ideal for crafting armor. Following this, Elrond proceeds to recount the tale of the ring to those assembled at the council. Though Frodo is already aware of much of the information, as Gandalf had previously disclosed details during his last visit to the Shire, the news still strikes fear in many of the attendees. The revelation that the Dark Lord Sauron has returned and is actively seeking his One Ring, the key to his ultimate control over Middle-earth, sends a shiver down the spines of all those present. Boromir, a valiant warrior hailing from the southern lands, takes advantage of a momentary pause in the council to rise and share tales of his beloved homeland, Gondor. With great pride, he speaks of the noble and courageous efforts of his people in defending the western realms against the savage tribes of the east. Boromir solemnly confirms the resurgence of Sauron, the Dark Lord, who has formed alliances with the ruthless warriors of the eastern lands, posing a grave threat to all. Despite being pushed back from their defenses near Mordor, Gondor continues to strive in safeguarding the free peoples of Middle-earth. In a surprising revelation, Boromir discloses that he embarked on a long and arduous journey of 110 days to reach Rivendell, guided by a shared dream with his brother that has led them to the hidden elven sanctuary. This dream entailed a mysterious riddle involving a broken sword, a diminutive being called a halfling hobbit, and a cryptic reference to Isildur's Bane. Boromir was born in the year TA 2978 as the firstborn of Denethor II, the final ruling steward of Gondor. He is said to inherit the stewardship. Tragedy struck when Boromir's mother passed away when he was just 10 years old. This loss had led to his father's demeanor turning somber, causing him to favor Boromir over his younger sibling, Faramir. Despite the favoritism, Boromir has made sure to care for and bond with his brother, forming a strong and close relationship between them. Aragorn stands up, unveiling the shattered sword of Narsil and placing its broken pieces before the gathered council. These fragments were once part of the longsword that the ranger had been carrying by his side in a sheath. In the film, Aragorn doesn't show the sword to the council. Elrond then reveals to Boromir the noble lineage of Aragorn, tracing his ancestry back to Isildur, the ancient king of Gondor who had defeated Sauron in the War of the Last Alliance. Additionally, Bilbo shares with the council the mysterious riddle of Strider, which hints at a prophecy of the sword being restored and a king regaining his crown. As Boromir's riddle is solved, Frodo comes forward to present Isildur's Bane, the fabled One Ring. Boromir queries Aragorn about the Rangers' past as guardians of unknowing people. Aragorn reveals his readiness to assert his rightful kingship over Gondor. Bilbo then shares his role in the Ring's tale with the council, while Gandalf explains the resurgence of the Dark Lord Sauron. The wizard also recounts his suspicions about Bilbo's ring and his quest with Aragorn to find Gollum for insights into the ring's origins. In the film, Aragorn doesn't make it clear that he wants to be king yet. He is simply stating that he wants to fight for the cause and destroy the One Ring. Legolas, an elven being, then informs the council that Gollum has managed to escape his captivity from the elves in Mirkwood. There is concern that he may go back to Sauron with valuable information. Gandalf the Grey Wizard speaks once more to conclude the final chapter of his story. He reveals that he was betrayed by Saruman, the leader of the wizards in Middle-earth, who was once a trusted friend of Gandalf and Elrond. Saruman's ambition is to possess the ring, and he hindered Gandalf from assisting Frodo on his journey to Rivendell by imprisoning him in the Tower of Orthanc. Fortunately, Gandalf was saved by Gwaia the Great Eagle, who carried him to Rohan. In Rohan, Gandalf befriended Shadowfax, the fastest horse resembling the legendary Miraz. Shadowfax swiftly transported the wizard back to the Shire, but Frodo was nowhere to be found in either the Shire or Rivendell. In the film's adaptations, Gandalf does not acquire Shadowfax until the second installment, The Two Towers. The reason behind director Peter Jackson's decision to not include Shadowfax in the Fellowship of the Ring remains a mystery. After everyone have shared their thoughts and heard the full story of the ring, the council deliberates on what to do with the perilous weapon. Eristor, the Elf Lord, proposes the idea of taking it to Tom Bombadil, as the ring has no corrupting influence on him. However, Gandalf and Glorfindel oppose the suggestion, citing Tom's unreliability in matters beyond his domain and warning that involving him would only prolong Sauron's imminent rise to power. The council acknowledges their inability to destroy the ring themselves, realizing that only the fires of Mount Doom in Mordor could obliterate the ring completely. It is rumored that Tom Bombadil possesses the ability to command and shape his environment according to his own desires. This includes having power over the forest itself and its inhabitants. As a result, he eventually became a legendary figure in the tales of men, elves, and dwarves. Each race had a different name for Tom Bombadil, but the name given by the elves, Arwen Benadir, meaning oldest and fatherless in Elven, holds significant meaning. Being a timeless entity connected to the forest, the acorns, and the leaves, it is logical to assume that his presence is only sustained when in close proximity to them. This also clarifies why he is unable to undertake the journey to Mordor to destroy the ring on his own, as he is bound by his boundaries and cannot venture beyond them. Boromir proposes that they bring the ring to Gondor in order to use its great power to combat Sauron's growing strength. But Elrond and Gandalf caution that the ring has the potential to corrupt anyone except the strongest individuals. They warn that if someone were to successfully control the ring, they would become a new dark force akin to Sauron because of the ring's inherent malevolence. Had Boromir or his brother brought the ring to Gondor, Denethor would have inevitably seized it for himself, intending to wield its power against Sauron. However, the moment Denethor laid claim to the ring, Sauron would have immediately sensed its presence and identified its bearer. This would have prompted Sauron to launch a full-scale assault on Minas Tirith in order to retrieve the ring. Despite possessing the ring, Denethor would have ultimately been defeated by Sauron's overwhelming forces. Elrond and Gandalf come to a consensus that the best chance of success lies in dispatching messengers to Sauron's fortress in Mordor in order to eradicate the ring. It is believed that Sauron would not anticipate such a bold move, as he is unable to comprehend anyone's desire to destroy an object of such immense power. Bilbo courageously offers to take on the responsibility of carrying the ring, but he gracefully accepts Gandalf's advice that he may be too elderly for such a perilous undertaking. A somber atmosphere descends upon the council as they contemplate the dangers involved in embarking on this treacherous journey. In the movie, Bilbo isn't present at the Council of Elrond, nor does he offer to take the ring to Mordor. At last, despite his overwhelming fear, Frodo bravely declares to the council his willingness to take on the responsibility of carrying the ring to Mordor, even though he is unsure of the way. Elrond acknowledges that he too believes Frodo is the most suitable candidate to bear the ring, though he hesitated to burden the Hobbit with such a daunting task. The wise Lord of Rivendell speculates that Sauron might be defeated by an unlikely hero, one who appears weak and insignificant, but will be underestimated by the prideful Dark Lord. Suddenly, the unexpected Sam emerges from a shadowy corner of the council chamber, insisting that he cannot allow Frodo to embark on this perilous journey alone. Elrond, recognizing the loyalty and determination in Sam's eyes, consents to his joining Frodo on the quest. Mordor, a dark and volcanic expanse located in the southeastern region of Middle-earth, lay to the east of Gondor, Ithilien, and the mighty river Anduin. Sauron selected Mordor as his domain due to the mountain ranges that encircled it on 3 sides, forming a formidable barrier that deterred invaders from entering easily. Book 2, Chapter 3. The Ring Goes South. Elrond dispatches scouts to gather information while the hobbits gather in Bilbo's room. Merry and Pippin are upset that Elrond has decided Sam would accompany Frodo on his journey as the ring-bearer, without considering them. Gandalf joins the group and announces that he would be accompanying Frodo and Sam on their quest. The hobbits continue to converse, and Frodo agrees to assist Bilbo in writing books that chronicle their adventures. In the film adaptation, there is no mention that Frodo is going to be a writer like Bilbo. As the days pass in Rivendell, the hobbits find that the painful memories of their flight from the Shire began to fade in the magical surroundings of the Elven refuge. Elrond has dispatched a group of elves to contact the Rangers and potentially connect with Thranduil's people in Mirkwood. Aragorn has accompanied Elrond's sons on this mission. It will be necessary for them to search far and wide across the lands before taking any action. Thranduil is a wise elven monarch who governs the woodland realm during the Third Age. Despite his natural inclination towards caution, his army played a crucial role in the triumph of the Battle of 5 Armies. He is also the father of Legolas, the noble elven prince of Mirkwood. After a period of 2 months, Elrond receives a report from his scout who have returned to Rivendell. The information they bring back is scarce regarding Sauron and his minions, as they have been keeping a low profile since the incident at the Ford of Brunnen. Even the Eagles of the Misty Mountain have no new information to share. Nonetheless, Elrond determines that action must be taken. He selects a group of 9 walkers to form the Fellowship of the Ring, tasked with opposing Sauron's 9 Black Riders on a dangerous mission to destroy the ring in Mordor. Among the chosen members are Frodo, Sam, and Gandalf. Elrond then designates representatives from different free peoples of Middle-earth to join their company. Legolas for the elves, Gimli for the dwarves, and Aragorn and Boromir for the race of men. Elrond is unable to join the Fellowship due to his responsibilities as a healer in Rivendell and as the keeper of Vilya, one of the Elven Rings. Although he has fought in battles during the Second Age and part of the Third Age during the time of the Fellowship, he chooses to stay behind in order to attend to the healing of those in need. Also, in the film, there doesn't seem to be a delay from the moment the Fellowship has been chosen. It quickly advances to the beginning of their quest. During their final days at Rivendell, the hobbits gather in the Hall of Fire each evening to listen to tales, including the epic of Beren and Luthien and the acquisition of the Great Jewel. While Merry and Pippin explore outside during the day, Frodo and Sam spend their time with Bilbo in his cozy room. Bilbo would share excerpts from his unfinished book, snippets of his poetry, or jot down notes about Frodo's adventures. With the support of Gandalf, Merry and Pippin are able to secure the 2 final spots in the company, despite Elrond's initial intention to select 2 powerful individuals from his own household. Gandalf argues that the hobbits' strong bond and loyalty to one another hold greater value in this perilous journey. The group is led by Aragorn, and they prepare to leave Rivendell. Gollum remains elusive, but the wild wolves are regrouping and hunting along the Great River. In this part of the film, it has not been disclosed that Gollum is secretly tracking the ring and Ringbearer. Several black horses are found drowned in the flooded ford, with more discovered downstream along with a torn black cloak. Despite their efforts, the Black Riders seem to have disappeared from the north without a trace. The legendary sword of Elendil is skillfully crafted by skilled elvish artisans, bearing a design of 7 stars nestled between the crescent moon and the radiant sun, surrounded by intricate runes. This magnificent blade is being prepared for battle against the forces of Mordor by Aragorn, the son of Arathorn. When the sword is fully restored, it gleams brilliantly in the sun with a red hue, and the moonlight gives it a cold glow, while its edge remains sharp and strong. Aragorn bestows upon it a new name, calling it Andriel, the Flame of the West. Aragorn and Gandalf spend their days together, discussing their journey ahead and the dangers that await them, poring over maps and ancient texts in Elrond's library. Sometimes Frodo joins them, finding comfort in their wisdom and guidance, often seeking the company of Bilbo as well. Together they prepare for the challenges that lie ahead on their quest. Aragorn asks elven craftsmen to repair the broken sword Narsil, transforming it into Anduril, the Flame of the West. Additionally, Bilbo gives Frodo a special dagger called Sting, which glows blue when orcs are close. Bilbo also presents Frodo with a protective coat made of dwarf mail to wear discreetly under his clothing. The film depicts the sword Narsil being introduced at Rivendell rather than at Bree, and it is shown to be in 6 fragments. In the book, however, the sword is shattered into 2 pieces, which Aragorn keeps close at all times. Also, Narsil is not repaired in the Fellowship of the Ring. It is only repaired in the 3rd installation, The Return of the King. Also, it is not Aragorn wanting it to be repaired, but Elrond. It is now time for the 9 members of the Fellowship of the Ring to begin their journey, accompanied by Bill the pony, who has been transformed into a gentler being under the care of the elves and hobbits, in contrast to his previous mistreatment by Bill Ferny. The company is not carrying much weaponry, as they rely on secrecy rather than engaging in battle. Aragorn wields Anduril as his only weapon, dressed in worn green and brown attire befitting his ranger persona. Boromir has a sword similar to Anduril, but of a lesser heritage, along with a shield and warhorn. Gimli the dwarf confidently sports a short shirt made of steel rings, showcasing the dwarven attitude of embracing challenges with ease. He also carries a broad-bladed axe in his belt. Legolas, on the other hand, has a bow and a quiver, along with a long white knife attached to his belt. The younger hobbits proudly wear the swords they have retrieved from the barrow, while Frodo chooses to carry only Sting, keeping his mail coat hidden as per Bilbo's request. Gandalf has his staff with him, but he also has the elven sword Glamdring secured at his side, the twin of Orcrist, which now rests with Thorin beneath the Lonely Mountain. Elrond has provided them with thick, warm clothing, including jackets and cloaks lined with fur. Similar to Orcrist and Sting, Glamdring, a high elven sword, was crafted by elvish smiths in ancient times and possesses a unique quality of emitting a cold light in the presence of orcs, serving as a warning to its wielder of impending danger. While it gleams brightly like a blue flame during the defeat of the Great Goblin, its usual radiant glow is described as white in all other accounts with J.R.R. Tolkien's works. The group heads towards the Misty Mountains, opting to attempt crossing the Caradaris Pass. The initial phase of their travels is filled with tension, cold weather, and a lack of cheer as the Fellowship moves primarily during the night to avoid detection by any potential adversaries. The crossing over Caradaris, also referred to as Redhorn Pass, Redhorn Gate, and the Dimril Stair, is the most southern route through the Misty Mountains. This passage is notorious for its narrowness, strong winds, and dangerous conditions, claiming the lives of many travelers who dare to traverse its path. After trekking for a fortnight, the towering peaks loom nearer and the climate improves. The group arrive at a desolate region of Holland and have to conceal themselves from large groups of ominous black crows that are scouring the area, presumably in search of any trace of Frodo, the bearer of the ring. Eregion, which is later called Holland, exists as a kingdom of the Noldorin elves during the Second Age. Situated close to the west gate of Khazad-dûm, later known as Moria, is a unique elven realm characterized by its friendly relations with the dwarves. Trade between the two civilizations flows smoothly and both sides enjoy a mutually beneficial exchange. After 2 more nights of trekking, the group arrives at the base of the mighty Caradaris mountain. Despite the looming threats of harsh weather and sinister watchers, they are determined to press on and brave the perilous pass. Boromir suggests gathering wood to bring with them up the mountain, a decision that ultimately proves to be a wise one. As they make their way up the treacherous slopes, a fierce blizzard engulfs the Fellowship, pushing them to their limits. Surprisingly, the blizzard on Caradaris was captured in a studio with intense spotlights. The snow used in the scene was made of a rice-based material that caused significant discomfort to the actors' skin and eyes. The hobbits in particular struggle to withstand the biting cold. It is only through the combined efforts of Boromir and Aragorn, along with a blazing fire, that the party manages to survive the harsh conditions. Ultimately, Caradaris proves to be too formidable a foe, forcing the group to retreat back down the mountain. Though defeated, they are grateful to have made it out alive. However, in the film, Saruman calls forth the storm. In the book, Aragorn desires to lead the Fellowship across Caradaris, whereas Gandalf favours traversing Moria. Aragorn and Gandalf have differing opinions on the chosen route for the Fellowship. Gandalf is open to the idea of passing through Moria, but only as a final option if all other paths are exhausted. Book 2, Chapter 4, A Journey in the Dark. Gandalf proposes a different route to traverse the Misty Mountains by journeying underground through the mines of Moria. Aragorn is hesitant to take this path, but realizes it is the only choice available. He cautions Gandalf, especially to steer clear of Moria without providing a reason. On the contrary, Gimli is thrilled at the chance to explore the deserted Dwarven realm of his ancestors. He is eager to search for his lost friend Balin, who embarked on a mission to reclaim the ancient kingdom and has not been seen or heard from since. In the movie, Gandalf expresses his reluctance to take the path through Moria, stating that he would only choose this route if there were no other options available. The company swiftly departs from Caradaris upon hearing the eerie howls of wolves nearby. Gathered around the crackling fire, the group sit in a circle, with some keeping watch while others drifted off into an uneasy sleep. Bill the pony is trembling and sweating, clearly affected by the tension in the air. The haunting howls of wolves surround them, drawing closer and then fading away in the darkness. In the still of the night, glimmering eyes could be seen peering over the hill, some daring to come closer to the ring of stones. Among them, a large wolf-like figure pauses at a gap in the circle, locking eyes with the group. A chilling howl echoes through the night, as if a leader calling for their pack to launch an attack. Aragorn, Boromir, Legolas, and Gimli demonstrate incredible skill and bravery as they engage in combat. Aragorn and Boromir expertly wield their swords. Gimli fiercely brandishes his axe, and Legolas unleashes a barrage of arrows at the wolf pack. Gandalf intervenes by invoking a powerful spell of fire, lightning, and thunder, igniting the surrounding trees and driving the wolves away. The hobbits, though armed with swords, remain on the sidelines during the battle, watching in admiration as their companions fight valiantly. After the dust settles, it becomes apparent that the wolves were no ordinary creatures, but rather magical wargs, as no bodies of the fallen beasts can be found on the battlefield. Wargs are a malevolent type of demonic wolves, implying that they are possessed by malevolent entities. The source of this breed remains a mystery. It is possible that they were one of the creatures created by Morgoth during ancient times. This scene wasn't included in the film adaptation. As the first light of dawn breaks, the Fellowship makes their way towards the western entrance of Moria. Sam reluctantly releases Bill the pony, as the loyal packhorse cannot accompany them through the mines. Gandalf cleverly solves a puzzling riddle to unlock the massive doors just in time, as a terrifying beast emerges from the dark pool near the gate, ready to attack. In the movie, Frodo asks Gandalf about the elven word for friend outside the gates of Moria, ultimately uncovering the answer to the riddle. Conversely, in the book, Merry unintentionally utters the word friend, sparkling Gandalf's realization of the solution independently. One of the creature's enormous tentacles snatches Frodo and drags him into the water, but Sam acts swiftly with a blade to rescue him. The rest of the group is momentarily stunned by the sudden danger. Gandalf quickly commands everyone to enter through the gate, but they soon realize they are trapped inside. The monstrous creature uses its immense strength to seal the doors shut, leaving them stranded as it retreats back into the depths of the pool. In the film, Aragorn cuts Frodo loose from the giant beast by slicing off one of the creature's legs. Legolas then shoots the creature with arrows. Sam, on the other hand, doesn't do much. After pausing to catch their breath in the darkness, Gandalf leads the group into Moria with a faint light shining from the top of his staff to show the way. The 9 companions venture through a maze of tunnels filled with treacherous pits that plunge into the darkness below. Their destination is the Eastern Gate, their only means of escape. As they reach a junction, Gandalf halts to carefully consider the path ahead, increasing the tension among the group, except for Gimli and Aragorn. Aragorn reassures the hobbits that they are in good hands with Gandalf's guidance, as the wizard has accompanied greater tasks in the past. Despite Aragorn's confidence, Frodo senses an impending evil and feels the burden of the ring weighing heavily on him. He also detects faint footsteps following their journey, adding to the unease of their venture. After many more hours of journeying, they finally arrive at a junction in the road where Gandalf struggles to determine which of the three paths to take. Choosing to stop for the night to give the wizard time to contemplate their options, the Fellowship sets up their camp in a dilapidated guard room beside the crossroads. Pippin playfully drops a pebble into a deep well nearby, causing it to reverberate loudly throughout the mines. Gandalf scolds Pippin for his thoughtless act, and as the stone falls, they hear the rhythmic sounds resembling the strikes of a hammer before fading away. The wizard takes the night watch, unable to rest due to his restlessness. This scene differs in the movie as the Fellowship takes a break in the chamber of Mezar Bul. Pippin mistakenly causes a deceased dwarf to tumble into a deep pit, which ultimately alerts a group of goblins to their whereabouts. In the book, Pippin throws a rock into the well instead. Gandalf rouses his companions from their slumber after a 6-hour rest, relying on his intuition and keen sense of smell to choose their path forward. The group marches until the hobbits can go no further, ultimately finding themselves in a vast, empty hall where they cuddle together for warmth throughout the night. Gimli captivates the hobbits with a rendition of Durin's song, a hymn recounting the former glory of the dwarf king Durin's realm before its tragic downfall. Gandalf then regales the company with tales of the dwarves' rich history of mining the precious metal known as mithril, renowned for its exquisite beauty, lightness, and durability. Frodo comes to the realization that the chainmail he wears beneath his clothing is crafted from this valuable material. The most well-known creation made from mithril was a small coat of mail crafted for a young elf prince many years before the Erebor quest. This exquisite piece was found in the treasure hoard of the fearsome dragon Smaug and then gifted to Bilbo Baggins by Thorin. Considered a kingly gift by Gimli, the mithril coat held a greater value than the entire worth of the Shire. Bilbo proudly displayed it as a decoration in Bag End before lending it to the Matham House Museum in Machel Delving. However, he reclaimed it before departing the Shire for Rivendell. Eventually, Bilbo passed the precious coat to his nephew Frodo Baggins while in Rivendell. Frodo wore the coat during the perilous journey to Mount Doom, and it proved to be a lifesaver on multiple occasions. It shielded Frodo from a near-fatal orc spear in the mines of Moria and deflected an arrow while crossing the river Anduin. As Frodo keeps watch for the night, he catches a glimpse which he believes to be luminous eyes observing their every move from across the hall. In the film, Gandalf reveals to Frodo that Gollum is stalking them because he wants the ring back. Frodo, annoyed, wants to know why Bilbo didn't put an end to Gollum all those years ago. Gandalf, however, believes that Gollum deserves to live and still has an important part to play in Frodo's quest. After enjoying their morning meal, a gentle glow seeps into the hall from the tall windows carved into the mountainside. Gandalf guides the group through the vast chamber, eventually leading them to a spacious side room containing a tomb. The Fellowship is overcome with sorrow upon discovering that the tomb belongs to Balin, and Gimli mournfully covers his face with his hood. Balin, the son of Fundin and the older brother of Dwalin, was a respected leader among the dwarves. He was part of the group of 13 dwarves who joined Thorin II Oakenshield on the journey to reclaim the Lonely Mountain. Known for his sound advice and attentive nature, Balin was a close friend and trusted advisor to Thorin. He was distantly related to Thorin and hailed from the noble house of Durin. After attempting to restore the dwarf presence in Moria, Balin and his companions were tragically killed by orcs within 5 years. Book 2, Chapter 5, The Bridge of Khazad-dûm. After discovering a written account left near the tomb, Gandalf uncovers the harrowing fate of Balin and his companions in Moria. Their group was surrounded by orcs and a terrifying unknown entity, leading to their demise. The last entry in the journey ominously states, "We cannot get out. The end comes. Drums. Drums in the deep. They are coming." Balin, who had been serving as the Lord of Moria, met his demise at the hands of orcs on November 10th in the year 2994 of the Third Age. He had ventured to the Miramir alone, only to be ambushed and killed. His lifeless body was later recovered from the battlefield and laid to rest in the chamber of Mezar Bul. Despite efforts to reclaim Moria following Balin's death, the endeavor ultimately ended in failure, resulting in the tragic demise of the remaining members of his kin. It is worth noting the irony that Balin perished in the same location and manner as his father had 195 years prior, in the year 2799 of the Third Age. The Moria orcs, known as Moria goblins, are a distinct breed of orcs from the Misty Mountains who have seized control of the once great dwarf realm of Moria, following the expulsion of its original inhabitants. As the years have passed, they have gradually diminished in size and stature, eventually earning the moniker of goblins due to their striking resemblance to the goblins native to the Misty Mountains. As Gandalf uttered these words, a loud and thunderous noise suddenly erupted, resembling a booming roll that appeared to originate from the depths below, causing the very ground beneath them to tremble. Filled with unease, the group of individuals begin to make their way out of the room, only to be interrupted by the thunderous sound of drums, cries, and horns. Regretting their hasty decision, the team quickly reacts by barricading the doors and alerting each other to the imminent danger approaching. Panic sets in as they realize their escape is now blocked. In the film, while Gandalf is reading the book, Pippin makes a ruckus, leading the orcs straight to them. Frodo's sword sting is shining brightly, and the Fellowship realizes that orcs are on their way. The company faces an overwhelming number of orcs in the battle, but their defense is fierce and effective. Legolas skillfully takes down 2 orcs with precise shots to the throat, while Gimli swiftly incapacitates another by chopping off its legs as it lunged towards Balin's tomb. Boromir and Aragorn also fight valiantly, taking out many enemies. After 13 orcs are defeated, the rest flee in fear, leaving the defenders unscathed. However, Sam sustains a minor scratch on his scalp during the chaos. Fortunately, he manages to dodge a potentially fatal blow and successfully takes down his opponent with a powerful strike from his barrow blade. Sam's determination and fiery gaze would have intimidated even the boldest of foes, showcasing his unwavering bravery in the face of danger. A cave troll and a group of orcs then burst through the barricade, catching the Fellowship off guard. Everyone, including Frodo and Sam, fights bravely to defend against the attack. Unfortunately, Frodo is wounded by a powerful orc leader, leaving him pinned to the wall. Aragorn swiftly deals with the orc and rescues Frodo, carrying him to safety as they escape through a nearby door. To everyone's surprise, Frodo miraculously survives the ordeal, much to the amazement of Aragorn and the rest of the company. In the film by Peter Jackson, a fearsome cave troll becomes embroiled in a fierce battle between the Fellowship and the orcs within Balin's tomb. The troll clashes with various members of the Fellowship, managing to strike Frodo with a spear, yet miraculously failing to injure him thanks to the protective power of his mithril shirt. It is the skilled archer Legolas who ultimately defeats the troll with a precise arrow that pierces through the roof of its mouth, straight into its skull and through its brain, emerging from the back of its head. Such a fatal blow is extraordinary, as even an arrow of elven make would typically not inflict such devastating damage. In this cinematic depiction, the cave troll is brought to life through computer animation. The intricate movements of the creature were captured by artist Randall William Cook, who donned a motion capture suit to embody his ferocious actions. Notably, the troll possesses a unique feature with a pair of nostrils situated above the space between its eyes, giving its nose the curious appearance of a third eye. As Gandalf attempted to seal the exit, he encounters formidable counter spells that drain his energy. In a desperate move, he uses his remaining strength to collapse the chamber's roof. Despite the danger, Frodo manages to escape unscathed, much to Gandalf's relief. Leading the company through the lower hold, they make their way towards the eastern gate. The group then navigates the treacherous bridge of Khazad-dûm, a narrow pathway crossing a deep abyss. As the orcs closed in on them, the members of the company are filled with dread as a formidable opponent emerges. It is a Balrog, a sinister elemental demon enveloped in flames and shadows, the very same magical force that Gandalf has faced before. The Balrogs in Tolkien's work are steeped in their own rich mythology. In the Elvish language, Sindarin, Balrog translates to Demon of Might. Following Sauron, Balrogs stand out as some of the most powerful and frightening beings in his service. These fiery spirits are also cloaked in shadow, creating an aura of fear around them. While many Balrogs have perished in the Great Battle, a small number have managed to survive by hiding in the depths of the world. During the Third Age, a group of dwarves stumbled upon one such Balrog deep within the Mithril Seam in Khazad-dûm. This particular Balrog is the same one that Gandalf bravely faces now. The Balrog has roots in Norse mythology, with its counterpart being Surtir, whose name means the Black One. During Ragnarok, Surtir will be enveloped by blazing flames, wielding a sword that outshines the sun. In The Lord of the Rings, the Balrogs were powerful beings called Maiar, who were twisted and corrupted by Morgoth in the early days of Arda's creation. Realizing that his companions are no match for such a powerful enemy, Gandalf urges them to flee while he stands his ground on the bridge. Despite his orders, Aragorn and Boromir defiantly stand by the wizard's side. After shattering the Balrog's sword, Gandalf destroys the bridge, causing the demon to plummet into the abyss below. However, as Gandalf turns to rejoin his comrades, the Balrog lashes out its fiery whip, snaring the wizard's ankle. Unable to break free, Gandalf is dragged off the bridge and plunges into darkness along with the Balrog. The epic confrontation between Gandalf the Grey and the Balrog of Moria is a pivotal movement and probably one of the most iconic scenes and lines from the movie. The company is filled with sorrow over Gandalf's apparent demise, but Aragorn urges them to continue towards the exit of Moria. With a horde of orcs chasing them, they hurry through the corridors and finally reach the eastern gates, where Aragorn defeats the captain of the orc troop guarding the doors. They continue running until they are a safe distance away from Moria, basking in the warm sunlight of Dimril Dale. Overcome with grief, many members of the company collapse to the ground, shedding tears for their fallen comrade. The filming of these scenes took place on Mount Owen, located on the South Island of New Zealand. Book 2, Chapter 6, Lothlorien. The Fellowship are gazing around them. To the north, the valley stretches upwards into a shadowy gorge nestled between two towering mountain ranges, with three gleaming white peaks visible above, Caradhras and the Mountains of Moria. At the top of the gorge, a steam cascades down like a delicate white veil over a series of small waterfalls, creating a mist of froth that enveloped the base of the mountains. In order to film the scene, helicopters were used to transport the actors and crew to a real mountain, which made Sean Bean, who plays Boromir, quite apprehensive. After a nerve-wracking first flight, Bean decided to forego any further helicopter rides up the mountain. Instead, he opted to take a ski lift and hike the rest of the way, still in full Boromir attire, to reach the filming spot. As the rest of the cast chuckled from their helicopter seats, they watched Bean trekking towards them. The company continues their journey down the rugged and worn path that stretches from the gates. The road, now reduced to a winding trail surrounded by heather and thorny shrubs, was once a magnificent paved highway leading to the kingdom of the dwarves. Remnants of ancient stone structures could be spotted along the way, with lush green mounds topped by delicate birch and fir trees swaying in the breeze. As they follow the path eastward, they pass by the shimmering waters of Miramir, where a solitary broken column stands not far from the roadside. The dwarves of Durin's folk believe that Durin the Deathless woke up at Mount Gundabad in the north of the Misty Mountains and then journeyed south until he reached a lake. Upon looking into the lake, he saw a crown above his head, which was actually the reflection of stars. Taking this as a sign, he decided to establish the magnificent city of Khazad-dûm beneath the mountains that were nourished by Miramir. To commemorate the significant event, the dwarves placed a pillar known as Durin's Stone along the shores of the lake. Tragically, on the 10th of November TA 2994, Balin, the Lord of Moria, was ambushed and killed by an orc while he was exploring Dimril Dale and gazing into Miramir alone. Frodo and Sam are struggling to keep up with the rest of the group, as Aragorn leads them at a fast speed. Eventually they fall behind, feeling the effects of not having eaten since early morning. Sam's wound is throbbing painfully, and he feels dizzy. After finishing their meal, the group prepares to continue their journey. They extinguish the fire and cover any signs of their presence. Dusk envelops their surroundings, with mist rising in the low-lying areas. In the distance, the fading light of evening casts a gentle glow over the far-off plains and forests. Feeling rejuvenated and more relaxed, Sam and Frodo pick up their pace, following Aragorn for nearly 3 more hours with only a brief stop along the way. The darkness of night have set in, shrouding the landscape. Despite the challenges of the journey, the company press on. Sam isn't injured in the film. Gimli and Frodo trails behind, moving quietly and refraining from conversation. Their ears are tuned in to any noise coming from the road behind them. One by one, they descend and follow Legolas. Frodo lingers near the edge for a moment, allowing the cool water to soothe his weary feet. Despite its chill, the waters feel refreshing, washing away the grime of travel and fatigue as it rises to his knees. After the entire company has crossed, they sit down to rest and enjoy a light meal. Legolas regales them with tales of Lothlorien, stories cherished by the elves of Mirkwood, of the radiant sunlight and starlight that once grazed the meadows by the great river before the world lost its colour. Eventually, a peaceful silence enveloped them, broken only by the melodious symphony of the nearby waterfall. Frodo imagines he could hear a faint voice singing, harmonizing with the cascade's gentle melody. Lothlorien, also called Lorien, is a large forest kingdom of the Galadrim elves situated close to the lower Misty Mountains in the northern region of Middle-earth. Originally inhabited by the Nandor elves, it is later joined by a small group of Noldor and Sindar elves led by Celeborn of Doriath and Galadriel. The group decides to veer off the trail and venture into the darker woods, moving westward beside the mountain stream that leads away from Silverlode. In the vicinity of the Nimrodder waterfalls, they stumble upon a collection of trees, with some leaning over the stream. The trees have massive grey trunks of impressive size, but their exact height remains a mystery. A ladder descends from the shadows, crafted by shimmering silver grey rope that sparkle in the darkness. Despite its delicate appearance, the ladders prove sturdy enough to support multiple individuals. With swift agility, Legolas ascends the ladder, followed by Frodo at a slower pace. Bringing up the rear, Sam attempts to muffle his breaths. The branches of the Malon tree extend straight from the trunk before arching upward. Near the top, the main stem branches out into numerous bows, forming a wooden platform known as a flet, or talon in Elvish. Accessibility through a circular opening in the center where the ladder passes through, the platform offers a concealed vantage point among the treetops. As Frodo finally ascends onto the wooden platform, he discovers Legolas conversing with 3 other elves. Their attire blends seamlessly with the shadows, making them nearly invisible among the towering tree trunks. Tolkien frequently portrayed the elves using feminine attributes such as elegance, purity, and attractiveness. As a result, these depictions likely shape the common perception of elves as a gender-neutral species with flowing hair. Legolas immediately descends the ladder to receive Haldir's message. Shortly after, Merry and Pipple scramble up to the elevated platform. They are panting and appear somewhat apprehensive. The hobbits gratefully accept the second, much improved supper. They then wrap themselves in the warm fur cloaks provided by the elves, as well as their own blankets, and attempt to settle down for the night. However, only Sam finds it easy to drift off to sleep. Hobbits are not fond of height, and sleeping on elevated platforms is not their preference. Pippin expresses his concern about falling off the elevated bed, jokingly referring to it as a bird loft. Haldir, an elf of Lothlorien, is believed to be a sylvan elf and served as a march warden responsible for protecting the northern boundaries of the forest. As Frodo lies awake, he gazes up at the twinkling stars peeking through the canopy of leaves above him. Beside him, Sam is already deep in slumber, his snores filling the night air. In the distance, 2 elves are sitting silently, their forms blending into the shadows as they whisper to each other. Another elf has descended to a lower branch to keep watch. The gentle rustling of the wind in the branches and the soothing sound of the nearby falls of Nimrodder eventually lull Frodo to sleep, with the melody of Legolas's song echoing in his mind. In the depths of the night, he stirs from his slumber. His fellow hobbits are all in peaceful sleep, and the graceful elves depart. None of this is shown in the film adaptation. The wind is calm and quiet. In the distance, a harsh laugh and the sound of many footsteps are echoing on the ground below. The clinking of metal can be heard as the sounds gradually fade away, heading southward into the forest. Suddenly, a figure emerges through the opening in the treehouse. Frodo, startled, sits up and realizes it is a grey-hooded elf. The elf then turns his gaze towards the hobbits. He rises to his feet and cautiously makes his way to the opening, peering down below. He is almost certain that he can detect subtle movements near the base of the tree. It is not the elves, as they move silently through the woodlands. As he strains his ears, he catches a faint sniffing sound and the sound of something scrabbling against the tree trunk. Slowly, something is climbing up towards him, its breath sounding like a soft hiss. Frodo sees two ghostly eyes staring back at him. The eyes pause and lock with his, before turning away and disappearing around the tree trunk. Shortly after, Haldir swiftly ascends through the branches, expressing his surprise at the unfamiliar presence in the tree. It is not an orc, as it has fled as soon as he approached. It appears cautious and skilled in tree climbing, leading him to consider it could have been one of the hobbits in disguise. Under the soft glow of daylight, Haldir and his escort lead the company to the presence of the Lord and Lady of the Wood. The elves' deep-seated suspicion of dwarves prompts them to cover Gimli's eyes in order to safeguard the secrets of Lothlorien. In an effort to appease Gimli's indignation, Aragorn suggests that all members of the company also be blindfolded, and so the elves of Lorien skillfully guide them into the depths of the forest. In the film, Aragorn does not suggest that they should be blindfolded. Book 2, Chapter 7, The Mirror of Galadriel. The sun descends behind the mountains, casting deepening shadows in the forest. Night falls as they walk, prompting the elves to reveal their shimmering silver lamps. After a long day of traveling on foot, the group finally arrives at Caras Galadhon, the heart of the forest. A road lined with white stones runs along the outer edge of the deep trench. They travel westward on this road, with the city gradually rising like a lush green cloud to their left. As night falls, more lights appear, illuminating the hill as if it were covered in stars. Eventually they reach a pristine white bridge, and upon crossing it, they arrive at the grand gates of the city. The gates face southwest, towering between the overlapping ends of the encircling wall. They are imposing and well lit with numerous lamps. Haldir knocks on the gates, which open silently, revealing no guards in sight. The travelers enter, and the gates close behind them, encircling them in a narrow lane between the walls. As they swiftly pass through, they enter the city of the trees. Although they see no people and hear no footsteps, there are many voices around them, echoing in the air above. The primary hubs of the elven civilization are easily identifiable. The northern region of Mirkwood, ruled by Thranduil, is home to approximately 130,000 elves. Lindon boasts a population of 100,000, with 75,000 residing in Folindion, 20,000 in Harlindion, and 5,000 in nomadic groups heading east. Lastly, Lothlorien is inhabited by 41,000 elves. From afar, the sound of singing drifts down from the hill, resembling gentle rain falling on leaves. Suddenly emerging into an open space, they find themselves beneath a pale evening sky adorned with a few early stars. In the twilight, these trees appear as living towers, their multi-tiered branches and swaying leaves illuminated by countless gleaming lights in hues of green, gold, and silver. Haldir, a member of the company, turns to address his companions in this magical setting. High above the ground, they reach a spacious talon that resembles the deck of a grand ship. Perched on the talon is a massive house, so vast that it could easily be mistaken for a hall fit for men on the earth. Following behind Haldir, they step into a chamber of oval shape, where the great Malon tree stands at the center, its trunk tapering towards the crown while still maintaining a wide girth. The chamber is bathed in a gentle light, with walls adorned in shades of green and silver, and a roof shimmering in gold. Numerous elves are gathered within, seated comfortably. Positioned under the tree's trunk, beneath a living bow that forms a canopy, are Celeborn and Galadriel, seated next to each other. As their guests enter, they rise to welcome them in a graceful manner of elves, exuding an air of regality that even the mightiest kings would envy. Haldir guides Frodo in front of them, and the lords greet him in their native language. The Lady Galadriel remains silent, but gazes intently at his face. Both Celeborn and Galadriel stand tall and majestic, the lady no less imposing than her lord, radiating a sense of wisdom and beauty. Clad entirely in white, the lady's hair shines with a deep golden hue, while Celeborn's silver locks cascades long and bright. Their appearance is awe-inspiring, leaving an everlasting impression on all who behold them. They express sorrow upon hearing about Gandalf's demise. Galadriel appears to delve into the innermost thoughts of each member of the group, testing their moral fiber by gazing into their eyes and communicating with them telepathically. Despite the challenges presented, all members of the company successfully pass this test of character, although Boromir chooses to keep the details of the lady's offer to himself. She is considered one of the most exceptional elves in Middle-earth, excelling in beauty, wisdom, and strength above most others. She possesses Nenya, one of the 3 powerful elven rings. J.R.R. Tolkien describes her as one of the strongest and most beautiful elves still residing in Middle-earth during the Third Age. That evening, the company decides to rest on the open ground, which pleases the hobbits greatly. The elves graciously set up a beautiful pavilion for them under the trees by the fountain, furnishing it with comfortable couches. With soothing elvish voices, they wish them peace before departing. The travelers briefly reminisce about their previous night in the treetops and the day's journey, as well as the lord and lady they have encountered. They were not ready to delve deeper into their memories just yet. The Fellowship spends several days resting in the enchanted elf forest, losing track of time in the peaceful haven. Their days are simple, filled with eating, drinking, resting, and strolling among the ancient trees. Although they do not encounter the Lord and Lady again and have limited interaction with the elf residents who mostly speak in their own language, they feel content in their solitude. Haldir has bid them farewell and returns to his duties in the north, guarding against the growing threat revealed by the news from Moria. Legolas, on the other hand, spends much of his time mingling with the Galadrim elves, distancing himself from the rest of the group at night. Despite this, he maintains his bond with his companions, often inviting Gimli to accompany him on his explorations. This shift in behavior puzzles the others, sparking curiosity and speculation among the Fellowship. The movie fails to depict the development of friendship between Gimli and Legolas at this point. During this tranquil time, Frodo creates a poignant song to honor the memory of Gandalf. A significant event occurs when Galadriel unveils her mirror to Frodo and Sam. This mystical basin, filled with water from a flowing stream, allows the Lady of Lorien to receive glimpses of potential futures. She offers the 2 hobbits the opportunity to gaze into the mirror, cautioning them not to make contact with the water. This is the traditional method of water scrying or hydromancy, staring into a shallow body of water for the purpose of predicting the future. In Norse mythology, the Norns utilize the Well of Erd as a siring vessel. Despite the warning, Frodo and Sam choose to peer into the mirror of Galadriel. What they see is chilling. Sam witnesses his cherished home, family, and friends in peril, while Frodo is confronted with a sense of ominous visions, including a menacing fiery eye scouring the land. Galadriel reminds Frodo to refrain from touching the water, and the sound of her voice breaks the spell, ending the haunting visions. Using her mystical abilities, Galadriel has shared in the visions that Frodo has witnessed. She offers solace to Frodo in the face of Sauron's overwhelming power, demonstrating her resilience against his mental assaults. As they converse, Frodo notices a radiant ring on Galadriel's finger and speculates that it is an elvish ring of great significance. Galadriel affirms his intuition, confirming the true nature of the ring. In Peter Jackson's film, Frodo is the sole individual invited to peer into the mirror. Witnessing a haunting vision of the serene Shire under siege, he sees hobbits, including Merry, Pippin, Frodo, and Sam, being cruelly mistreated by orcs as they are compelled to march forward while enduring lashes. The eye of Sauron casts a menacing gaze, causing the ring to slip from Frodo's grasp and hover perilously close to the water's surface. Peter Jackson has clarified that the depiction of the Shire in peril was a creative means of hinting at the omitted events from the novel's chapter, the Scouring of the Shire. This cinematic choice allowed for a glimpse into what could have been, showcasing the potential fate of the Shire had those events been included in the film adaptation. Frodo is deeply impressed by Galadriel's strength and wisdom, leading him to offer her the ring as he believes she would be a better guardian of it. Despite being tempted by the potential power the ring could give her, Galadriel recognizes the danger it possesses and refuses Frodo's offer. Instead, she guides Frodo and Sam back to rejoin the rest of their companions. Galadriel chooses not to bear the ring despite her immense power because she understands the dangers of its corrupting influence. Her refusal stems from a deep-seated desire to rule her own realm, a trait inherited from her uncle Fëanor, whose ambition ultimately brings about his downfall and that of his 7 sons. Book 2, Chapter 8, Farewell to Lorien. That evening, the Fellowship is once again called to Celeborn's chamber, where the Lord and Lady welcome them warmly. Celeborn addresses their upcoming departure. Aragorn expresses his gratitude to Celeborn multiple times. The gift of boats bring him great comfort, especially since it means he doesn't have to make any immediate decisions about their journey. The rest of the group also seems more optimistic. Despite the dangers that lay ahead, they all agree that it is preferable to travel down the Ondian River in boats rather than continue on foot. However, Sam is still wary of boats. He believes they are just as unpredictable as wild horses, if not worse. The company bids farewell and make their way back to the pavilion. Legolas accompanies them as it is their final night in Lothlorien. They deliberate for a long time on how best to proceed with the ring, but can't reach a decision. It is clear that most of them prefer to head to Minas Tirith first to escape the fear of the enemy for a while. They are willing to follow a leader into the shadow of Mordor, but Frodo remains silent. Sam is afraid of water because he cannot swim. Aragorn initially planned to accompany Boromir and assist in delivering Gondor with his sword, while Gandalf was still with them. He feels a deep conviction that the dreams he had been having were a call to action, signaling that the time has come for the true heir of Elendil to confront Sauron. However, after Gandalf's fate in Moria, the responsibility of carrying the burden has fallen upon him. He knows that he cannot abandon the ring now, especially if Frodo decides not to join Boromir. Despite this, he is uncertain of what assistance he or any of his companions could offer Frodo as they venture into the unknown. Throughout the film, Aragorn's sole focus is on aiding Frodo in his quest to destroy the ring. He views this task as a chance to redeem the wrongs committed by his forefather, Isildur. The notion of Aragorn assuming the throne is not what he wants, as he doubts whether he possesses the necessary confidence and merit to lead. Throughout the book, Aragorn is always aware of his destiny to become king. He is determined to earn the crown through his deeds, and not just because of his lineage. Aragorn's confidence in his own abilities never wavers. He has a deep love for his kingdom and its inhabitants. He firmly believes that his reign would usher in a new era of prosperity, provided they can defeat Sauron. As Frodo gazes intently at Boromir, he senses a shift in the man's expression, a hint of something new and unfamiliar. Boromir's words seem to contradict his true intentions. Frodo remembers Boromir's earlier remarks at the council, where he had initially expressed a desire to possess the ring, only to later agree with Elrond's wisdom. Merry and Pippin have already drifted off to sleep, while Sam is beginning to doze off as well. In the movie, Boromir shows hesitation towards the decision made by the Fellowship. He desires to return the ring to his father in Minas Tirith and does not acknowledge Aragorn as the true king. Interestingly, the betrayal of Boromir in the book is different from his depiction in the film. In the book, Boromir expresses his own viewpoints but ultimately shows loyalty and the ability to set aside his opinions for the greater good of a democratic decision. However, as the ring's influence grows stronger, his demeanor undergoes a much more drastic transformation compared to the movie adaptation. Frodo notices Boromir behaving erratically, muttering to himself, fidgeting, and perspiring profusely. At dawn, while preparing to gather their limited belongings, a group of elves approach them and present an abundance of gifts such as food and clothing for their travels. The elves then unwrap and present the company with specially tailored clothes. Each member has received a hood and cloak made from a light yet warm silken material woven by the Galadrim. The company receives special gifts from Galadriel before they depart from Lothlorien. Aragorn is given a magic sword sheath and a green jeweled brooch shaped like an eagle. He graciously accepts the stone and fastened the brooch onto his chest. Merry, Pippin, and Boromir each receives belts made of silver or gold. Legolas is gifted with a great bow and a quiver of arrows, while Sam is given a box of magical Lorien earth. It contains earth from Galadriel's orchard. The earth is like grey dust, soft and fine, and in the middle of which is a seed, like a small nut with a silver shell. Afterward, Galadriel turns to Gimli and asks him what he would like to request from the Lord and Lady. Having great respect for Galadriel, Gimli gracefully asks for a strand of the lady's golden hair. Galadriel gifts him with 3 strands, which he promises to cherish forever as a symbol of the goodwill between dwarves and elves. Galadriel's act of bestowing her gift upon the dwarf reveals her deep empathy for him, as she is able to see into his soul. Lastly, Galadriel presents Frodo with a crystal phial filled with starlight. Frodo accepts the phial, and as it illuminates the space between them, he catches a sight of her once more, standing regal and magnificent, yet no longer fearsome. He lowers his head in reverence, but was unable to find the right words to express his gratitude. Galadriel's phial contains pure water from her magical fountain, capturing the essence of Erendel's star. This starlight was originally from the 2 trees of Valinor, encapsulated in a Silmaril many years before Erendil was even born. As they stroll through Caras Galadhon, the pathways are deserted, but the trees above them are alive with murmuring and singing voices. They proceed in silence, following Haldir as he guides them down the slopes of the hill towards the great gate adorned with lamps and the White Bridge. Exiting the city of the elves, they navigate through woodlands cloaked in shimmering silver shadows, descending further south and east towards the riverbanks. Peter Jackson has chosen not to incorporate the many songs featured in the Lord of the Rings movies, but he did include 2 of the dwarf songs in The Hobbit. In J.R.R. Tolkien's original books, the elves and various other characters frequently engage in singing, often for different purposes. Music holds a special significance for the elves, making it a natural choice for them to welcome visitors with a song. After traveling about 10 miles, they reach the Great River, with its deep and dark waters. The shores are barren and desolate. The company is organized as follows. Aragorn, Frodo, and Sam occupy one boat. Boromir, Merry, and Pippin are in another, while Legolas and Gimli share the third boat, having formed a close friendship. Throughout the film, Legolas and Gimli exchange playful banter as they embark on their journey with the Fellowship. Despite their initial jabs at each other, their bond quickly deepens, evolving into a strong friendship. While they maintained a competitive edge, Gimli harbored a fear of appearing vulnerable in the eyes of the elf. The duo in question has a history of hostility that extends beyond what is depicted in the books. The root of their animosity runs deep, with Legolas's father having once imprisoned Gimli's father. This dark past leads Gimli to join the Fellowship out of a lack of trust in Legolas's motives. It is only during their time in Lothlorien, where they bond over shared sorrow and encounter Galadriel, that their friendship begins to blossom. The boats are propelled and steered using short-handed paddles with wide leaf-shaped blades. Once everything is prepared, Aragorn leads them on a journey up the Silver Lode. The current is strong, causing them to progress slowly. As they pass beyond the lush meadow of the Tongue, Frodo is sitting, listening to the gentle lapping and murmuring of the river against the tree roots and driftwood along the shore, until he drifts off into a restless slumber. The river Celebrant, known by various names such as Silver Lode and Kibble Nala, originates in the eastern Misty Mountains close to the exit from Moria. Frodo is lying comfortably beneath tall, grey-skinned trees in a secluded part of the woods on the western bank of the great river Anduin. Nearby, Gimli is tending to a small fire, preparing for their journey ahead. Despite the company's reluctance to rush southward, they are content to delay making any decisions until they reach Rauros and the Tindrock Isle in the days to come. They allow the river to guide them at its own pace, not eager to face the dangers that await them, regardless of the path they choose. Aragorn is fearing that the Dark Lord is not idle while they linger in Lorien. Anduin, which means Long River in Sandarin, was given to the Great River of Wilderland, also known as the Great River. It was the longest river in Middle-earth during the Third Age. According to Karen Wynne Frostland's The Atlas of Middle-earth, the estimated total length of Anduin was 1,388 miles, approximately 2,234 kilometers. However, there are no signs of any enemy on that day or the following day. The hours pass monotonously without any noteworthy events. They have reached the desolate brown lands situated between southern Mirkwood and the Emuin Mule Hills. Aragorn cannot determine what has caused such devastation in the region. Whether it is pestilence, war, or some evil act of the enemy, there are no visible signs of any living creatures, except for birds. As they continue their journey southward, the feeling of unease begins to intensify among the company. They spend a whole day paddling swiftly along the river, watching the banks pass by. Legolas feels his heart racing beneath the stars on a summer night in a northern glade surrounded by beech trees. Gimli is considering the worth of the gold in his mind, pondering if it is suitable for the lady's gift. Merry and Pippin, on the other hand, are uneasy in the middle boat as Boromir seems restless and doubtful, biting his nails and closely following Aragorn. Pippin notices a strange glint in Boromir's eye as he stares at Frodo. Sam has already decided that boats are not as dangerous as he had been led to believe, but much more uncomfortable than he could have ever imagined. In the film, The Fellowship of the Ring, the Fellowship is shown rowing their boats, but nobody seems too anxious. They are rather enjoying the scenery and relaxing. That evening, they set up camp on a tiny island near the western shore. Time seems to drag on slowly. Just as Frodo was about to give in to the urge to lie back down, a shadowy figure, barely discernible, is drifting close to one of the anchored boats. A long, pale hand could be faintly seen as it reaches out and grasps the side of the boat. Two eerie, lamp-like eyes glow coldly as they peer inside, then turn upward to meet Frodo's gaze from the small island. They are only a few yards away, and Frodo could hear the faint sound of breathing being drawn in. Rising to his feet, Frodo unsheaths Sting and confronts the eyes. Instantly, their light vanishes. There is another hiss and a splash, and the dark figure disappears into the night. The night goes by without Gollum reappearing. From then on, the group remains vigilant, but they do not encounter Gollum again during their journey. At Aragorn's command, they paddle for long periods, swiftly passing by the banks. However, they do not see much of the landscape as they mostly travel at night and at dawn, resting during the day and keeping hidden as much as possible. The film doesn't show the Fellowship camping. Gollum is also not shown during this part of their quest. On the 8th night of their voyage, bowstrings are being released through the air. Arrows fly through the sky, some landing dangerously close to the group. One arrow has struck Frodo in the back, causing him to cry out and drop his paddle. Luckily, his mail coat has protected him, causing the arrow to bounce off harmlessly. Another arrow narrowly misses Aragorn, while a third embeds itself in the side of the boat near Merry. Sam notices dark figures moving quickly along the shore opposite them. The enemies appear to be just within reach, ready to attack at any moment. They all lean forward, straining as they paddle, with even Sam lending a hand. With each passing moment, they brace themselves for the sharp sting of black-feathered arrows. Many arrows whiz overhead or splash into the water close by, but miraculously, none find their mark. The darkness provides cover, but the keen night vision of the orcs could have easily spotted them in the faint starlight. Yet, the grey cloaks of Lorien and the elven-crafted boats seem to thwart the evil intentions of the Mordor archers. Stroke by stroke, they push on, their progress imperceptible in the dark, swirling waters. Eventually, they believe they have reached the middle of the river once more. With a concerted effort, they steer the boats towards the western shore. In the film, the Fellowship is not shown to have arrows firing at them while they are sailing. However, they are aware that orcs from Isengard are on their trail. Without setting up a camp or starting a fire, they huddle together in their boats, tightly secured to one another. As dawn breaks, Boromir pledges his strength to help Frodo reach the Tindrock, but makes it clear that he would go only as far as the Tall Isle before returning home alone if his assistance does not earn him any companions. Aragorn and Legolas would advance along the shore, while the rest stay with the boats. Aragorn is hopeful that they would find a way to transport both the boats and their belongings to smoother waters beyond the rapids. Boromir and Aragorn take turns carrying the boats, while the rest of the group follows behind with the baggage. The fog obscures the view of the river to their left, although they could hear its tumultuous flow over the rocky terrain of San Gabur. As Frodo gazes ahead, he notices two massive rocks looming in the distance. A narrow opening emerges between them, and the river carries the boats towards it. The planned attack of the rapids of San Gabur was supposed to be featured in Peter Jackson's The Fellowship of the Ring. However, a sudden downpour and massive flooding the night before filming was set to commence destroyed the entire set, which stood at a height of 20 feet. As a result of limitations on both time and budget, this scene had to be removed from the script. Frodo approaches the towering pillars. It has become clear to him that these pillars are not mere natural formations, but rather intricately crafted and shaped by ancient hands. Despite the passage of time and the harsh elements of weather, they still retain their majestic forms. At the base of the pillars, immersed in the deep waters, stand two colossal stone kings. Their features are weathered and worn, with eyes that appear clouded and brows furrowed in a perpetual scowl towards the now. Each king holds up a hand in a warning gesture while clutching an axe in the other. Adorning their heads are deteriorating helms and crowns, symbolizing their once great power and authority. The majestic power of the silent sentinels, remnants of a once great kingdom, still emanates a sense of awe and fear as they stand guard over the long-vanished land. Together, they venture into the dark abyss of the gates, where towering cliffs loom ominously on either side, shrouding the distant sky in darkness. The turbulent waters below roar and reverberate, while the fierce wind howls above them, creating a sense of foreboding as they journey deeper into the unknown. The actual filming location for this iconic scene is the breathtaking Kowara Gorge, nestled in the stunning South Island of New Zealand. Aragorn guides them to the eastern bank of the river, where a lush green meadow stretches down to the water's edge at the foot of Amon Hen. Trees cover the gentle slopes of the hill behind them, extending westward along the curved shoreline of the lake. A small spring cascades down, nourishing the vibrant grass below. They pulled their boats ashore on the lush green banks, establishing their camp next to them. Despite setting a watch, there is no sign or sound of their adversaries. If Gollum manages to trail them, he does so without being noticed or heard. Nevertheless, as the night progresses, Aragorn becomes restless, frequently tossing and turning in his sleep before finally getting up in the early hours to relieve Frodo from his watch duty. However, Aragorn and Frodo notice the glint of orcs in the distance, revealed by the blade of Sting. The film doesn't show Aragorn and Frodo aware of orcs in the area. It only shows them being on the move. The following morning, after a hearty breakfast, Aragorn gathers the group together to strategize their next steps. Despite deliberation, no consensus is reached, prompting Aragorn to defer to Frodo as the ring-bearer to make the final decision. Frodo asks for some time alone to contemplate, wandering away from the group deep in thought. Sam observes Boromir closely, watching Frodo as he ponders his options. Amon Hen was originally forfeited during the early period of Gondor's history, possibly dating back to the Second Age. Aragorn mentions that it, along with its companion hill, were constructed in the times of mighty kings, although the exact time frame is not specified. However, significant defensive structures were established in the vicinity by Romadisl II. Wandering along the hillside, Frodo discovers himself ascending towards a picturesque location on the hill of Amon Hen. Reflecting on the numerous trials and tribulations faced during the Ring's journey, Frodo is taken aback by the unexpected arrival of Boromir. The warrior from Gondor reveals that he has been trailing Frodo in order to safeguard him from any potential threats. The group discusses the impending decision that the ring-bearer must make, with Frodo acknowledging the challenging path ahead of him despite his fear. Boromir continues to advocate for taking the ring to Gondor, but Frodo feels a strong conviction that he must face the perilous journey to Mordor alone. Boromir becomes fixated on the ring and demands to see it, but Frodo hesitates and refuses to reveal it. The captain of Gondor becomes increasingly agitated, imagining the power and glory he could achieve with the ring. Frustrated by Frodo's unwillingness to share or part with the ring, Boromir angrily lunges at Frodo in an attempt to seize it by force. In a moment of desperation, the frightened hobbit puts on the ring, vanishing from sight to escape the confrontation. It is evident that Boromir has fallen victim to the corrupting influence of the ring. Frodo swiftly flees from Boromir, making his way to the peak of Amon Hen. By chance, he comes upon the ancient seat of Seeing and pauses to admire the breathtaking views surrounding him. During the War of the Ring, this place, much like Amon Lor, had been deserted and left to decay for a long time. The only thing that remained of the grand structure was the elevated seat at the summit of the hill, offering a panoramic view of the River Andon flowing far below. Despite the danger, Frodo keeps the ring on, enabling him to glimpse both nearby and distant lands, all marred by the scars of war. However, his use of the ring attracts the sinister gaze of Sauron's all-seeing eye, prompting Frodo to hastily remove it just in time to evade detection at Amon Hen. The Dark Lord utilizes the Great Eye as a symbol to represent himself and his forces, creating an atmosphere of all-knowingness. In Middle-earth, the Eye of Sauron serves as a powerful propaganda tool, holding significant influence due to the genuine power behind Sauron's gaze, both literal and metaphorical. In his uncontrollable desire to possess the ring, Boromir stumbles and falls to the ground. The sudden impact brings him back to his senses, leading him to apologize to Frodo for his moment of madness. Unable to locate the Hobbit, he rejoins the rest of the company and confesses that he has urged Frodo to bring the ring to Gondor, only for Frodo to use its power to escape. Sam, sensing that Boromir is withholding the information, prompts the company to search frantically for Frodo. In an attempt to maintain order, Aragorn assigns Boromir the task of protecting Merry and Pippin while he sets off to find Sam. In The Lord of the Rings, it is emphasized that the vulnerability of men lies in their yearning for power. The One Ring offers great power, yet it is inherently malevolent and ensnaring. Through the characters of Aragorn and Boromir, Tolkien illustrates contrasting responses to the allure of the ring, showcasing the consequences of succumbing to such temptations, as he attempts to seize it from Frodo by force. However, Frodo is able to evade him and make his way to the peak of Amon Hen. There, he meets Aragorn and ultimately decides to continue his quest on his own. Aragorn swiftly catches up with Sam and instructs him to accompany him up Amon Hen in search of Frodo. However, using his intuition, Sam understands that Frodo will want to protect the rest of the company and will venture towards Mordor alone. Hurrying back to where the Fellowship had left their belongings, Sam arrives just in time to spot Frodo as he sets sail on a boat towards the eastern shore. Without hesitation, Sam throws himself into the river despite his lack of swimming skills and intense fear of drowning, in an attempt to reach Frodo, who is already a distance away from the shore. Frodo manages to pull the struggling Sam out of the water and is relieved to hear Sam's determined declaration that he will accompany him on the mission to destroy the ring. The Hobbits, known for their pure hearts, possessed a natural resistance to the corrupting power of the One Ring that has surpassed other races. This unique quality made it clear that Frodo and Sam should proceed on their own, while the remainder of the Fellowship engaged in fierce battles to distract Sauron and his forces in Middle-earth. As the company members are spread out on the slopes of Amon Hen, the two hobbits manage to navigate across the River Anduin. They dock their boat on the bank and hide it behind a sizable rock. Facing a series of grey hills ahead, they set out to find a route to carry the ring into dangerous territory towards Mordor. Though the Fellowship is fractured, the mission to eliminate the ring presses on. The conclusion of the film differs from the structure of the original books. The Orc assault that originally occurred at the start of the Two Towers has now been shifted to the end of the Fellowship, coinciding with Frodo's pivotal decision to depart from the group. This alteration aligns more logically with the narrative flow, as opposed to the abrupt division in the book series. In the books, the initial event in the Two Towers is Boromir's untimely demise. Within the first few pages, he meets his end, followed swiftly by the appearance of orcs. This sudden turn of events not only feels disjointed, but also disrupts the development of Boromir's character arc. Boromir's demise is not sudden, it follows a clear trajectory. Throughout the narrative, he is portrayed as arrogant and overconfident in his ability to wield the ring, only to be ultimately consumed by its power and betray Frodo. However, in a moment of clarity, Boromir sacrifices himself to protect the hobbits against insurmountable foes. This character development is a culmination of his journey, leading up to a poignant and unexpected death in the second book. This deviation from the movie adaptation adds depth to Boromir's arc. Anyway, that's it for Lord of the Rings: Fellowship of the Ring. We should do the Two Towers in the next few months, But in the meantime, please try out our Game of Thrones Choose Your Own Adventure through the link below.